here to share his enthusiasm with us. If you would please welcome Roger Brooks.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay? Want to make sure in the back it's good? Could be louder? No? That's plenty? Okay, I'm going to go up here then. So it's really been great to be here. We've been in Mountain Home since Monday. I want to introduce my wife, Jane. Go ahead and stand up, Jane. She's been with me this whole week. She doesn't get to do a whole lot of these, but she said, I want to do that one. So that's good news for you. And so I'm going to dig right in. We got here early Monday afternoon, and I want to talk about what this whole assessment thing is. And we have been secret shopping you since lunchtime on Monday. And when we do this, Paula, Courtney, nobody at the city, nobody at the chamber, nobody gave us a heads up. We did not want a list of, you got to check this out, this out, this out, nothing. So we have been here all week on our own, right down to where we stayed, where we ate, everything. Because 99% of the people that come here to start a business, whether they're coming for Air Force, it doesn't matter what, they're coming here first as what? A visitor, and they're not calling ahead and getting all that information. So we want to make sure it was the same way. And there was no input on what to see, what to do. And then, by the way, we wore 3 different hats. We looked at Mountain Home as a place to live and raise a family. Is this a place we'd live? Number 2, is this a place we'd work in, move a business in, invest in, start a business in? And then number 3, as a place to visit for more than just a stop on our way between Boise and Twin Falls. Okay? And so, by the way, we have been doing this we have actually assessed, I got to update that bio, 1,500 communities, including many in Idaho. And we did 45 states, all across Canada, Western Europe, you name it. And so, in this assessment process, we looked at visibility. How good was it? How easy was it to find information about Mountain Home? And was it good enough to close the sale under those 3 hats? And how did you stack up to the competition? Because you know what? We already did this and followed it with a plan in Caldwell. And they're just now implementing theirs. Is it convenient to get information? And so we did that. Then this week we've been doing what we call the on-site assessment. We looked at your signage, your gateways. Was it easy to find stuff? I'm telling you right now, it wasn't. Overall appeal, what was our first impression? How many are squirming already? And by the way, this is no holds barred. Okay? Critical mass, we'll talk about that. Places to eat, places to shop. Amenities, parking, restrooms, information. What is there to see and do? Customer service. Went through all that. Matter of fact, we usually a list of 65 things, and I'm going to go through all 65 of them tonight. Kidding? Not going to do that to you. So, before we arrived several weeks ago, and by the way, we didn't just start this Monday, we did the usual thing we would call Chamber of Commerce and request a packet information just like anybody else. And so we did do that. We requested the information, and we got a big packet that had a letter from the chamber with lots of resources on it. We did get a visitor's guide. We got this sheet here that said, Explore Idaho in a Day. We got a sheet that talked about an app for Mountain Home. We even got this little list here of restaurants and shops with a little map of where they're located. We got this from Shoshone Falls. Some people say Shoshone, some people call it Shoshone. Then we also got this, Craters of the Moon. I mean, it kept going on, and it was quite a packet. So Mountain Home, Idaho, murals, local Joe, you know that. Explore Idaho in a Day, 2 to 3 hour trips, hot springs. I mean, you know, we just got loaded with stuff. Then we got this one. We also got the Shoshone Indian Caves. I mean, it was quite a bit of stuff. Anderson Ranch. Then we got another brochure about Mountain Home and another one about Mountain Home. Plus, you know what I forgot to grab, and I'm going to do it right now. We got a huge map. I'm going to pull this stuff out so you can see it. Sorry I didn't do this first, but that's okay. I'm just disorganized. And so, as a matter of fact, we got so much stuff that, I mean, it fills up half my suitcase, my briefcase. But this is all the stuff we got. Plus, we ended up getting about 5 pounds of other books to read. And you know how that works these days, where we want brevity and nothing more than 100 words long. So we got this big, huge map that says Mountain Home in Elmore County, Idaho. And if you ever try to open up one of these while you're driving, the driver will not be able to see out the window. And while it's a map, there's absolutely nothing marked on the map of what's where. So we did get that, but we couldn't really use it. And then we did get the main Oregon Trail backcountry roads, which is a book about 50 pages long, beautiful little book. And then we got National Historic Trails. That's this book, and this one here is probably about 82 pages long. And so let's see, Oregon Trail in Idaho is this one, and it's got such small type that you need a magnifying glass, but it's got a great map. So what happened is we got all of this stuff. It's too much, okay? And so one thing I want you to see, because I am talking about marketing, I'm talking about the product. I do not want you to give the Chamber of Commerce or the city a bad time about the marketing, because they bent over backwards on a minuscule budget to create all these day trips and all of this stuff. I mean, and it costs a lot of money to send that to us, and so we're really grateful, and they did it in a timely manner. But the thing is that one thing you got to know is that when it comes to day trips, 45 minutes. If you're going to send us to Boise or Twin Falls, why wouldn't we just stay there? They have more amenities, bigger city, more restaurants, more lodging choices. And so that is one thing that we're going to do. So this is not a criticism of the Chamber of Tourism or anybody. What we're going to do is we're going to tell you how to make it better and more effective. And that's what this presentation is about tonight. And so, and here's the point. There you go. There's the Boise area. There's Twin Falls. You're in the middle, which is perfect. But a lot of things have changed. In the old days, cars didn't all have air conditioning. And by the way, these days, cars with electric windows and everything, I mean, you know what? You have a car full of kids, no need to stop in Mountain Home. What's the drive time between Twin Falls and Boise? 2 hours, hour and a half? Why would we stop? Yeah, it depends on when you're driving. And so that is the challenge, is that. So immediately, I'm going to tell you what you no longer need to send out. It will save you a ton of money on printing. It will save you a ton of money on postage. And these are them. First of all, the Mountain Home in Elmore County map was not, and some of these are privately produced. I don't want to give them a bad time either. If I'm looking for specific things, the map might be very useful. But for us, we like a map that actually shows where things are on the map. Okay? And so I don't think you really need to send that out. It's very thick and heavy. The backcountry byway, the National Historic Trails, the Oregon Trail in Idaho, I don't think you need to send all those. The mobile app, we got that as a visitor, and the app is a terrific application if you are a resident of Mountain Home. When you open up the app, it says call City Hall, and you push the button to call City Hall. And it's about council meetings and everything. Really, we didn't see anything in there that had anything to do with visitors or first-time visitors. So I think it's a great app for residents, but for us, we didn't use it. Okay? So you don't need to send that. And by the way, this little thing is about the app and shop local there. It's really meant for locals and not really for us as visitors. So you don't need to send that. Craters of the Moon, I even wrote on there, 3 hours away, not doing it and coming back to Mountain Home. See what I mean? And so even though it's cool, not going to do it for Mountain Home. And the same with Shoshone Falls, same thing. You know what? It's in Twin Falls. The Indian Cave is an hour and a half away. The 2 or 3 hour trips, there's a few in there we did, and, so I don't think you need to send all these. So what we're going to do with all these other ones is, at the end of this night, you only need 2. Just 2. And I'm going to show you what should be in them and why you need them. So these are all great. You know what? I probably should have had all zoom in, but these are all a whole bunch of different ones. And I'm not sure why those didn't all zoom in. And by the way, we finished this presentation just about an hour ago. And so this is really, really fresh. And so I am going to, let's see here. There we go. I'm going to move these all in, and now I'm going to go back to it. And so this one, the visitor's guide, is great, but even it was more of a local focus than a tourism focus. The hot springs, I think we can condense that down. Your murals and local joy, I think we can condense down. The Anderson Ranch, for sure we can condense down. There's the Come Play in Our Big Backyard brochure, and then I'm sorry some of these are going in there. So a lot of these we'll be able to condense way down into just 2. And so that's another thing. It was just too much to read. And what happens is we started getting confused. Okay, we got this one, some of them are duplicated 2 and 3 times. And so we brought all that stuff with us. We got here on Monday. So we flew into Boise, by the way, from the north, from Seattle area, but we now live in Phoenix. Okay, so we flew into Boise and drove out. And what was really cool, as soon as we left the airport, woohoo, Mountain Home's on a sign. We didn't get that when I worked in Caldwell. They sent us to Nampa. And so anyway, I thought, well, that's cool. So now, we drive out to Mountain Home. I want to show you when we drive in. And by the way, we drove in from both directions. And so these are our first impressions of Mountain Home. So, right now, I didn't realize that had the volume on, going through that. That's the wind, by the way. And so, if there's a way to shut the volume down on that, I would. I'm not so sure that there is, because it's coming out of this little speaker. I don't see it. So, you can see we're seeing some I'm going, uh-oh. But, you expect some industrial kind of look. And so there's a neat cafe. Love the retro sign there. And so we're coming in, not too sure. By the way, that exit says Mountain Home. You may say you're not even in the city yet. As a visitor, the exit said Mountain Home, we're in Mountain Home. So you have to understand that. So as we're driving down the street, we can see lots of storage places. And so these, just bear with me because now the speed limit's going down. We see some nice residential subdivisions. And so far, we're kind of going, well, not too sure what to think. Want to buy a trailer, great places. And then what happens is, the closer it gets, the rougher it gets. And that's not good. So we are seeing here, now we're seeing Sinclair and seeing gas and nothing really bad. But, we're sizing you up. And so we can see here we got an auto repair. The sign looks like it hasn't been changed since 1971. We do see a cool retro motel. And there's still no signs that say where Mountain Home is, or if there's ever a downtown or anything. And so we're starting to see some other stuff. And traffic slowing down so we can notice more things. But I want you to see, this is what we see as visitors. You probably don't even notice this stuff. We see a bike shop that looks like it went out of business 20 years ago. And then we see, here we go, welcome to Mountain Home. We go, oh, now we're here. Nice greenery. It looks good. We see Albertsons here. And now we're looking for signs that tell us where downtown is. So we're still looking. And now, by here we think, well, we must be coming into downtown right about now because we see a lot of stuff going on. But still no real signage. The speed limit is definitely slowed down. And so now I think there was the welcome sign with Kiwanis and all that on the right. Here's the best place to trade. I don't know if that's a pawn shop or what. And then we see, it looks like vacant retail. We see a beautiful park on the right. And we see some stores. So we assume that this is downtown, this little strip. There's no signs that say that there's anything else in Mountain Home. So we have now experienced downtown, and my camera went haywire on me. And so I kind of had to reboot it. And so I think we're still going downtown here. And the next thing you know, we're leaving town. And so, and so those are some challenges. And by the way, not only is this kind of a challenge, because there's still no signs to say to turn anywhere for anything. You have no wayfinding signage at all, zero. And so you have some few challenges that way. Now, if you come in the other way, this is actually even worse. And so as we come into downtown, we do see car wash, which we needed because we went out to the crater rings. And so we see some retail, the usual stuff. And by the way, this whole thing isn't just films of me driving. And so landscape supply, used cars. But we're coming in, and here's the biggie. We see a sign that says, "Welcome to Mountain Home." I want you to look directly to the left. Welcome to Mountain Home. What's your first impression? And not only do we see that, we see abandoned buildings here on the left, nothing in there for decades. We see a cool little coffee shop. Then we see, I think that's a GM or Chevy dealership. And then we see an old, dilapidated trailer park on the right. And so the big deal is never put your gateway signs when you say welcome to Mountain Home, whatever's around them is how we're going to judge you. And so this is what we're seeing. Now we're seeing Domino's Pizza and it starts looking better here. But it's the usual strip retail. And I think it ends up taking us through the other way. And so those are the challenges. So I won't go through the whole thing. But here's the first thing. Always put your gateways where you make the first best impression, never at the city limits. Why are we like a pack of dogs? We have to go out and mark our territories with signs. Put them where you make the first best impression. So when you, like right there, whatever we see after is how we're going to judge you. And by the way, that's on American Legion Way, which is, by the way I would tell everybody that's the exit to take. Really, because it's a better first impression. I mean, no offense to, you got Chevron at both ends and, like Burger King and whatever. But I'm telling you, by the time we get to what we think is downtown, we've already kind of given up. And that's not what you want first-time visitors to. And I'm not talking about tourism, I'm talking about Air Force. A lot of people stay at the Hampton Inn where we stayed, or I saw U.S. government on the plates. They're in uniform. They're coming in the same way you are. And they're coming from all over the country. And so that is the first thing. When you see this, welcome to Mountain Home Auto Salvage, and then right across the street, that's what you see. And I'm not saying that they're a great business. But is that where you want to put your sign? So that's where we make that judgment. Okay? And then the next sign you see on the right is right there, the mobile park. You drive, if you drive around, you see stuff like this. Welcome to Mountain Home. So you're going to see lots of suggestions. By the way, see that up there, that number 5? None of these are recommendations. They're suggestions. We never talk to you first. It would be a little presumptuous to come and say, you should do this and this and this, when we never talk to you. By the way, there may be things here you may say, well, we're already working on it. Well, we don't know that. And if you're already working on it, great. We just validated why you're working on it. So number 5 was there. Maybe you could start working with some of these people just to get rid of the eyesores. You know, maybe you need to put up some cedar fencing so when we're driving into town, this is not what we see. I mean, there's a few places I could swear I heard banjo music. Just kidding. Just kidding. But, you know, even billboards like this, if you're not going to use the billboard for 5 years, then you know what? Under abatement, you have to take it down. Or maybe what you do is say, you know what? If you're not using it, can we put something really cool there to promote Mountain Home? Do something. You know, and by the way, I love the way Thrifty has their cars on display. You know, if I was them, I think I'd go choose a different billboard. So anyway, we came into town. It was lunchtime. So what do? TripAdvisor, the most visited travel website on the planet, bar none. Where's a good place to eat lunch? And of course, one of the top picks was the Dilly Dally. Okay? And so we pulled in there, not great curb appeal, but it says best sandwiches in town, and TripAdvisor seems to agree. So we did park there, we did go in, and it was all blue. Just so you know, I graduated from the University of Washington, where we now have your coach. And we're still getting throttled by Boise State. So, but anyway, that was great. And the sandwiches were great. The gals working in there were great. But here's the first thing. If you go back to this, and we have to punch it into our navigation system, and we type in 190 East 2nd North, I mean, you know what? You're not like Salt Lake City on a grid pattern. And so we did find it, but I'm telling you, this is the biggest convoluted nightmare in all of Mountain Home. I mean, look, if you're on a grid pattern, so we got these streets running at this angle, these run at this angle, these run at this angle, these at this angle. I mean, it made no sense, and even my navigation system couldn't figure it out. And so, I mean, you know, and so even for a long time, I thought we were going east and west when we were going south, east, and northeast, and then, it was a nightmare for us to find anything because you have no wayfinding signs. And so, you know, and by the way, every thoroughfare seems to have 4 or 5 names. You're a city of 15,000, and we got I-84, Business Route 84, Highway 20, Highway 26, Highway 30, Business Route 30, Highway 78, Highway 51. Then you call something Sunset Strip, Sunset Way. We never found one single sign anywhere in Mountain Home that said Sunset on it. So stop it already. And by the way, here's the biggest problem. Every single sign in Mountain Home tells you how to leave Mountain Home. There's not one single sign telling you how to find Legacy Park, or your museum, or downtown, or your golf course. The only thing, and I don't even know, is the base actually in Mountain Home? Nothing. So it doesn't matter where you go. Here's the easiest way out of town. Even when you are downtown. Even things like this. We saw a sign for visitor information. Good luck finding it. You have to ask somebody and say, oh, it's tucked behind McDonald's. And by the way, you got one sign here. Oh, we got our speed limit sign and the seatbelt sign. Then we got another sign there. Then we got a little tiny golf course sign, which we didn't see for the first 2 days. Then we've got our visitor, then we got Business Route 84 sign. Then we've got, our retail signs over there for McDonald's and the Jeep dealership. And then we've got a business sign behind all this sign. And then there's finally the visitor information sign. People look at signs for 4 seconds. We didn't even see the visitor information sign or stay at Hampton Inn. And so your number one priority as a city is to develop a wayfinding system. Number one. It's one of 2 big ticket items we're going to give you today. Because wayfinding includes vehicular signs. How do we find stuff? There were no signs to anything in Mountain Home when we're in Mountain Home. You want to increase retail sales? You might start by helping even Air Force employees and their visitors find stuff in Mountain Home. Because when we ran into Air Force officers and people that are working on the base, where do you go to hang out? Boise. Matter of fact, we didn't even know this. We went out and found it. We take the bypass to Boise. Sounded like a country music song. But that's what they do. So we said, where the heck is this bypass? And then we found it. Go from the base, you go all the way around, and you totally skip Mountain Home. You could fix that with a wayfinding system. Okay? Attractions, activities, where are they? Trail markers and access points. Visitor information kiosks. Pedestrian wayfinding once we're downtown. And by the way, they should be decorative to fit whatever it is you want to be known for. We're going to talk about that too. And by the way, that's Modesto. 1, 2, 3, 4 things on a sign, never more than 5. And it should always look like whatever it is. That's Woodlands, Texas. It looks like a place called Woodlands. It doesn't even have to be expensive. That's Appleton, Wisconsin. This sign is on an existing power pole. It was $700. They got permission to put it on the power pole. It's got an aqueous coating so graffiti and ice won't stick to it. It's on stainless steel hardware. And you know what? They put up 18 of those and their retail sales went up by 15%. Because I have no idea what you have in this town yet on our Monday afternoon. And when you're downtown, if it's pedestrian friendly, there should be a little pedestrian map. I mean, think about Disney. They get it right. They make it easy to find stuff. And when it comes to pedestrian wayfinding, this is French Lick, Indiana, having a few of these in your downtown so you can walk from the museum over to such and such to such and such, so you can find things. Restaurants, retailers. And by the way, it plays an effort in whatever it is you want to be known for. It's a major component in your marketing efforts. And it reinforces a positive experience. It educates your visitors and your locals about what you got and where it's located. Here's the deal. Cell phones are not a substitute for wayfinding signs. You have to understand, wayfinding systems in cars and on our phones, you know what? We use them to type in things we already know exist and we just need to find. Wayfinding tells us about stuff we don't even know you have. If it wasn't for the front desk girls at the Hampton Inn, we would have never seen Legacy Park, which is a showcase park for the entire state. There's no wayfinding signs, and I wouldn't know to look for it. And so, it builds community pride, and it's as much a science as art. This, by the way, is not a public works project. Sorry, city. So here's what you need to do. I would get the county, Mountain Home, other cities, towns that are in the county, and do a county-wide system. And you could prorate it out by the population or miles of streets, however you want. And you know what? You need to do that. There's federal grants for it. Should be your number one priority. If you do just wayfinding, you could see your retail sales and services probably double. That's tax base. That's jobs. It's economic development. And so, there you go. Navigation systems are not a substitute for wayfinding. Because you know what? That park is awesome. That totally changed our perception of Mountain Home. Our first perception was not exactly good. And so, but when we saw that, a dad and his daughter out there fishing, I just went, oh my gosh, that's cool. And we did eventually find the visitor center after we asked where it was. And so we went there. It's great, neat little place. You know what? What's missing is 24/7 visitor information. Remember, people don't just travel 8 to 5 or 9 to 6 whenever it's open. And so I want to take a little side trip here. Visitor information could be as simple as a little real estate brochure tacked on the side of a building in 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 places. You know, it's just that simple. Or you might have a map brochure. And by the way, we found these all over the county. Wouldn't it be cool if there was a little brochure holder right there next to it, showing us the Oregon Trail, promoting mountain home? I mean, those things are like $6 a piece. And by the way, just so you know, before people travel, they use brochures and print material 32% of the time. But you know what it is once we arrive? Number one at 81%. Once we're here, we stop at a restaurant, we stop at a hotel, or we stop at visitor information, we're in the car. Now we want to read something and hold it in our hands. So where do I get it? And so there you go. Really important. This is Moses Lake, Washington. I think they could have done, I mean, this was done by volunteers. You could do a lot better job. But you know what? Kiwanis put it up for them. Information station. On the back, you could, they didn't, but you could put brochure distribution. Kingsport, Tennessee did this one. And by the way, see the brochures right there? You pay $3 a month to put your brochure in there, and that $3 keeps it stocked and keeps it full, and any money left over builds another visitor kiosk. We even have a video. We have this incredible video library, which we're going to give access to for you for 6 months. And it's got a whole thing on visitor information. One of my favorites is in little Cape May, New Jersey, down the southern tip of New Jersey, in a little town of 1,100. They've got this great little pedestrian-friendly downtown. And there it is. By the way, the kiosk, it says on the top, "Welcome friends, old and new. Linger here a day or two." Oh, see? Oh. I like it. He evoked emotion. But you know what's really cool? I don't know how much it costs, but there's business there. You need to promote your businesses. And it's really a cool little kiosk. I need to find out how much that costs. But even in Flemington, New Jersey, they just bought a little bus stop, a little prefab bus stop, and then inside it's got brochure distribution right there. So you could have 2 or 3 of those. You might have a combination of them. One of my favorites is in North Platte, Nebraska, right here. They actually paid a guy $350 to build this. Got the lid that lists up. It's got a state guide, a local guide, and then a best of brochure there. And for you, you should have one at Legacy Park. Downtown in 2 or 3 locations. Near your hotels. At the Visitor Information Center, needs to have outdoor 24-hour visitor information. City Hall, the museum. I mean, Air Force Base, what a great place to put visitor information. The golf course, your trailheads. And even downtown at the chamber office. I mean, it's right downtown. You should have it there. And then, by the way, down the road, we'd like to see your visitor information in downtown. Here's why. The number one activity of visitors in the world is shopping, dining, and entertainment in a pedestrian-friendly setting. Downtown. And by the way, there's more to that statistic. But here's the other deal. Once people get out of their cars, you have a 4 times greater chance of getting them to spend money. Now, there's no problem where it's at. I'm sure that, what is it? Is it Wendy's or Jack in the Box? And McDonald's probably love it there. But we'd like to see it in your downtown, and nothing against them. We think your downtown needs to come back. And so, there you go. By the way, that statistic, the number one activity of visitors, shopping, dining, entertainment, pedestrian-friendly state, it's not why they come. But it's the number one activity in the world once they're here. By the way, that's where 80% of non-lodging visitor spending takes place. 80%. Why do you think Disney put downtown Disney outside each of its parks? To get that 80%. So, so there at the Visitor Center is a great map of the Oregon Trail. It'd be great if there was a little brochure holder there, not necessarily about the Oregon Trail, but of Mountain Home. What a great place to do it. And by the way, what was really interesting is if they've just sprinkled the lawn, you have to walk on the wet grass to read the information, where you could duplicate it on the back where we can actually walk on a sidewalk. Okay, so just duplicate it. And so your feet won't get wet. And then we love it. Come stay and play in our big backyard. And the text is kind of good. You know, it's try our sandbox at Bruneau Dunes State Park. And, you know, bring your bike and pedal through the alpine country. And there's a lot of really good text there. But we could find no information anywhere of where I would pedal my bike through alpine country or anything else. So it's really nice descriptive language, but no details. So that's something you have to understand. You should put a little QR code that says, for details, click here. It'll tell you exactly how to do it. The other thing you could do, you have a lot of ball fields. Do you ever host teams from out of town in the area? And I thought, man, you could even do a little portable one. This is in Banff, Alberta. And so it's all PVC right here. And by the way, at night they can close it down. It's just, you know, it's got little casters on it. Pretty cool little thing. 2 people can sit in it. There it is. And by the way, they bought 3 of them. 2 to be out and 1 for parts. Every once in a while they break the PVC in there. But it's kind of cool. You bring a couple of stools, and the girls have a good time. They're super portable. And you know what? If you ever have tournaments, you ever have Air Force events, you ever have big events, I don't know. You know, wherever the people are, bring the visitor information to them. And by the way, these things this is who makes that one. Look at that, it's like $2,500 total with printing and everything. Got to get 1 or 2 of those. So, and we get no commission. I just like those. I just think they're really cool. And so that's what they did. They bought 4, I guess, 2 for tourism and 1 for parts. And that's what they do with them. So, now, back to those kiosks at the Visitor Information Center. There was a great photo of the lake. But there you go. This gets me in trouble every time. I would consider a new logo. Number 1, it's really hard to read. Number 2, no offense, because somebody put a lot of hard work in it. When you shrink it down, you can't make out the picture. And it looks pretty dated. And this is just from us from the outside. And I don't mean to insult anybody, because somebody put a lot of hard work into that. But I think you need to step up. I think it needs to look a little different these days. And so when you see it on places like this, we could not read that until we're like this close. People behind me did not appreciate me stopping right there. So the other things I would do, I would drop your big backyard. I've seen it tons of places. It doesn't give me a reason why I should come here. I mean, name a place in Idaho that doesn't have a big backyard. Sun Valley, like Coeur d'Alene. I mean, I could go all over the place. Crossroads of the West. Oh my gosh, I've heard that in St. Louis. I've heard it in Oklahoma, Missouri, Indiana, Illinois, California. I mean, I've heard it everywhere. It doesn't mean anything. And then large city conveniences. No. If we want large city convenience, we'll go to a large city. Don't try to compete with Boise. You're different. That's what we love about Mountain Home. Okay? And so, I would just, change that. But there you go. By the way, Jane went in and secret shopped the visitor information staff. If I go in there and go, oh, we've seen you before. I speak at your tourism conferences and stuff. So she went in there. She was in there for a long time. So I had breakfast over at McDonald's. No, I didn't. So I was out taking pictures and stuff, and Jane came back out, and she goes, oh my gosh, fabulous. Fabulous. And I said, so what was like? She says, well, she asked me why we're here, where we'd like to go. I mean, I can't even, and she said, and where are you going from here? If you're going to go to, and Jane said, Seattle. So then she says, well, let me give you some information about the Northwest. I mean, she was willing to plan the entire trip. I mean, that's good. So awesome. Really great. So we did that, and we went up to the Hampton Inn right nearby, and that's where we stayed. Now, why do we stay at the Hampton Inn? Number 1, I travel 250 days a year, and I'm a Hilton, Gold, Diamond, whatever it is. And so I always look for those. But when we went online, we saw Best Western, but it's not a Best Western Plus. That means it couldn't have muster to be a little more upscale. which, by the way, we found out later that's not really the case. They don't have an elevator, so Best Western wouldn't give them the plus. And then there's the, is it the Mountain Home Inn? The Mountain Home Inn, but it's a non-brand. I'm not too sure. We never know what to expect. And so, by the way, here's a statistic for you. The top 15% of accommodations in terms of quality, top 15% in quality, command 85% of the leisure travel business. The days of the 50s and 60s mom and pop hotels are coming to a close, unless you make them really cool somehow. So that's why we don't, I never, and by the way, 4% of the population will stay at B&Bs. In our case, we don't stay at B&Bs because we need a desk, we need Wi-Fi. We're not there for the social experience. We're here to work. So that's why I stayed at Hampton Inn. And what was really cool, we walked in, and the two young girls at the front desk working were Hannah and Ashley. And I don't think, they weren't tipped off. They didn't know. We just checked in. And they asked where we're from. And I said, well, we told them, we didn't tell them why we're here. We just told them that we're coming, we're staying for 4 nights. And by the way, at the time they said, you know what, we have you for a suite, but we only have suites on the first floor. And I go, I never stay on the first floor. I'm a light sleeper. I don't want headlights or horns or freeway noise. I mean, I'm really sorry. And they said, okay, let me see what we could do. And they worked really hard to try to figure out a way to accommodate our needs. Good first test. And we ended up getting a nice room on the 3rd floor, and somebody else got our 1st floor room. And so, but then we said, where's a good place to eat? So what was really cool is they pulled out the little card. Now here's one thing that's really important. We've been to many, many places where they say, I'm sorry, we can't recommend one restaurant over another because we're chamber members and we could get in trouble. That is the last thing on the planet you ever want anybody to do, because you know what that means? We're going to write you off. We're just going to use TripAdvisor and Yelp and forget you. But they didn't. And by the way, the question we asked is, what are your favorite restaurants? Not the best rated or anything. What are your favorite restaurants? So they said, I think Hannah said, well, what kind of food do you look for? He said, casual. We just got here. And so she pulled out this. She goes, Frankie's has the best burgers. And Fatty's Pizza, and by the way, you know what? We were just in Emery County, Utah, which also has a Fatty's Pizza. And just so you know, if somebody owns Fatty's Pizza, whenever I hear a word like Fatty's of any kind of restaurant, I go, I'm trying to lose weight, I better not eat there. You know what I mean? I mean, we do that. So sometimes you got to be careful on your names. But then they said, oh, Curly Sports Bar, this has addresses, but it does. Your addresses, forget it. It's like not having an address. So she said it's at the golf course. So I wrote golf course. Manhattan Cafe has amazing breakfast. El Miradero, let's see, it says Timber Creek Coffee. Then they wrote a couple of, you got to go to, is it Sakoti? Sakat. Interiors, you got to go there. And so they did this, and it was really cool. I mean, you know what? I got to tell you this. You have some of the best frontline employees that we have ever run across doing this for 30 years in 1,500 towns. So, I walked in tonight and said, hey, there she is with her sister that owns the interior design tour. And then we're eating lunch at Manhattan's. And then next thing I know, now we're friends with Jerry right next to them back there, who's a photographer. And by the way, I had come from a wedding on Sunday in Seattle where I sweated out my clothes. So I took it to the dry cleaner. And by the way, her name is Crystal, but she goes by Petey. She used to go by Pete, but she had a younger brother who now passed away that I think was mentally challenged, and he always wanted a brother. Whenever they would introduce her as Crystal, he would cry. So they called her Pete. When she got married, her husband wanted her to go by Crystal so people wouldn't think he was gay. True story. So now she goes by Petey. We're here 4 days. You want to know some more stories? It was awesome. really awesome, and very rare that happens. Very rare. And so congrats to you. And so they said, you know what? We decided to go down and have Mexican because it was Monday and most of the places are closed. As a matter of fact, we went back, once we checked it, we went back down and said, well, she said, so where'd you decide to eat? And said, we're going to go out to Chiote, which, by the way, that's not how you pronounce it. But that's where he said, she goes, oh, before you do that, they're closed on Mondays. See what I mean? She just saved us a 10 or 15-mile trip. And so she said, you know, this little place, and this is what Ashley said. She goes, it doesn't look like much from the outside. But you know what? It's really authentic Mexican. It's really good. We know they're open on Mondays. And so I typed in navigation 815 South 3rd West. And the navigation system said, you want A or B? Now, what the heck? And I didn't know what. Should I just type in 3rd and then have it say South 3rd West? Or do I type in South 3rd West? And it goes, I don't know what that is. And I don't know. So I put in B. And it took us about 2 blocks away. And we finally found it. But that's, you know, and so anyway, we did go there. And, you know, I would, you know, I don't know what it would take to renumber your streets and all that. I know, what are your, how much, I mean, luckily Post House goes by zip codes more than streets. So we had dinner there. It was great. Their security alarm kept going off, so the cops showed up. But other than that, it was really great. It really was good. That doesn't happen all the time, obviously. So then after we ate dinner, we decided just to drive around. No nav system, we're just driving around. But we do remember that Ashley and Hannah said, while you're here, you have to go see Legacy Park. We didn't know where it was. We knew it was somewhere, so we drove around and we found it. And so, I mean, this is Monday evening. How awesome is that? I mean, I'm telling you, so we saw that. The ladies out there, even the kids, having a great time. Boy, she's a taskmaster. She's good. We saw the wetlands. I mean, so what kind of birds are these? Okay, I can't hear, but I'll ask later. They're beautiful, and there's lots of them. And it was just such a beautiful place. And, of course, Jane had to take time to stop and smell the roses, which they're plentiful in town. And, I mean, we saw the guy and his daughter. We saw a mom and her daughter there learning how to fly fish. Our perception of Mountain Home changed 180 degrees, just like that. And by the way, there's this right here. Somebody said something about a koi pond. Is that what goes here or was here? Or is this part of a pond? Does this wheel ever work? Anybody know? It does? Is it going to? So here's what you should do. Just put up a little sign that says, and what is in this? Okay. You could say the pond will be restored and will be back to its glory days in August or next year or whatever. Just a little sign. Because when you put up a little sign, you know what it tells us? We're working on it, and it's an invitation to come back. That's all you do, just a little temporary sign. And then the other problem is, this is a stunning park, and that's what you have for restrooms? Okay, so what's wrong with this picture? Now, are restrooms coming? Don't know yet? Okay, they're expensive, by the way. They're $100,000 for and so we know they're expensive. But for your legacy park, you need to get that done. So we did see those, and they were conveniently located, although people are like, let's just wait till we get back home. We're going, we can't. We don't know the way back home. And then, by the way, what is this going to be? Just a drainage store? Is it just storage runoff? So it's not going to be an attraction or anything. Okay. In that case, we don't need a sign there. But we thought if it's going to be something cool, let us know. And so there you go. And by the way, if it wasn't, and the other thing is we had driven around a little bit in other parts of the city that were going, oh my gosh, right? Blue tarp heaven, that type of thing. But when we got around here and we start seeing homes like this, and like this, and like this, we're going, oh my gosh, this is incredible. I mean, this city has more diversity than I think we've ever seen in one single town or city. Beautiful homes, beautiful landscapes. I mean, particularly this one. Somebody said that belongs to a pretty well-known photographer, and I went, man, I should have stuck with that when I was in college. But you know what's interesting, and that's right across the street, but even in this area, what we call the north part of town, I don't know if that's true or not, but our geography, kind of the north part, even the older towns, the older homes are still beautifully landscaped and maintained. And another thing that we noticed as we started driving through all these neighborhoods is that at least, it seemed like at least half of them had parked in the driveway on the side a trailer, an RV, an ATV, a boat, a motorcycle. We just thought, wow, this place is super recreationally oriented. There must be a lake somewhere because you're not on the river. And so anyway, we thought it was really cool. We could just see that this place, people live here, love the recreation. Okay? And so after that, we managed to work our way back to the hotel using our navigation system from Legacy Park. And then we put together the list. So what we did is we went through that brochure and started writing down all these attractions and stuff that we're supposed to go see. And so we put together this whole list. And then what we did, so we made, these are the ones that we thought would be pretty cool. And by the way, these are the ones that were not so far away that it wouldn't be worth going there and turning around and coming all the way back. So usually within like a 45-minute drive one way. So we started doing that. But the next thing we did, because you don't do it for us, is we had to break it into these. So we said, okay, in the northeast area, that one's there. Then we made a list of things in the southeast that we knew we were going to go see. And then we did, okay, this is in the southwest. And then here's what we have in the northwest. So it would have been easy if you could do this for us by creating these trips and kind of grouping them together. So we started going down them. So we decided, okay, Bonneville Point. When we read it, we don't know, it says go to exit 64. Where the heck is exit 64? How am I supposed to know that? And so, and they can't even get that on your navigation system. And so then, we don't know how long a drive it is. All the instructions for everything were start here or there, but it didn't say this is, by the way, it's a half-hour drive or 20 minutes or whatever. Okay? And the text didn't really close the sale, and I am really, really sorry. But you know what? We've worked in Pendleton. We've worked in Baker City. We've worked along the Oregon Trail. And no offense at all, but once we've seen 5 or 10 wagon ruts, we've seen enough. Okay? And no offense. And by the way, if you expect the millennial generation to come out and say, let's follow the Oregon Trail, not happening. So, I'm not tossing it away because us baby boomers that are hitting retirement age are still doing that. But you know what? We're more interested in the stories than we are the ruts. And so it didn't really close the sale. And by the way, it's too close to Boise, so we crossed it off the list. So, next day, Tuesday morning, we decided we're going to start in the southeast. And so, of course, it was really easy to leave town. Not a problem leaving. Okay, piece of cake. And we did go down to Glens Ferry. And by the way, you see Glens Ferry, and while they don't have a wayfinding system, they have plenty of signs that tell you how to find stuff. And so it was really good. And by the way, the winery, they even tell you 1.7 miles. What a concept. You need to do the same thing as on your countywide wayfinding. Even finding the Air Force Base says it's that way, and you drive like 5 miles. For a visitor, it seems like you've driven 25. And so we did do that. It was great. There it is, kind of messy, but at least they told you where things were. Incredible visitor information center right in the middle of their spending district. You got to do that. By the way, it's obvious they've got the Pioneer thing covered. So we cross that off your brand list because Old West is the most overused one from like Oklahoma all the way to California doesn't even claim it, but Arizona and everybody else does. And so, but they got the Pioneer thing down. And so I thought, okay. And then the other thing we're thinking, maybe Mountain Home could be known for equestrian. By the way, equestrians spend more money and travel greater distance than any other hobby. And they spend more money. Just look at the rigs. The challenge with equestrian is you got to build lots of arenas with certain kinds of footing. You have to have boarding. I mean, it costs a lot of money. A lot of that's public. But when we were here, we could see, lots of things there. Then we saw this, Worldwide Equine Inc. And I went, well, they probably got that too. But a very charming downtown. Really cute. Not much was open when we got there Tuesday morning, but really cute what they did. Nice little pole banners. And by the way, it was really easy to follow their signs. Okay? And so, some of them are a little bit dated and everything, but we're not doing assessment of Glenn's Ferry. But while we're there, we did see the Crossings Winery, and we went, that's awesome. Incredible winery. And we love the fact that by every kind of variety of grapes, they told you what it was. That is awesome. And so we did make it out to Three Island Crossing State Park. And we did go in, and they had a little 10-minute film that was, I'm sure it was on, what they did is they took an old 1975 VHS tape, put it on a DVD so that it was so pixelated and blurry you could barely read it. And one thing about it is we wanted to hear about the ferry crossing. The entire film was about political correctness, about the Native Americans, and the Native Americans helped the pioneers, and it was all about that struggle between the Native Americans who were here first and us Euro-Americans that came in later. And they really spent maybe 3 minutes telling you about the experience of what it was like crossing there. And so you just going, well, I want to hear the stories of what it was like. And how those Native Americans actually they did show a little piece of a reenactment where a wagon did tip over in the river, and there I got a little bit of taste of how rough it was. But that was like 30 seconds of the film. And then really nice lady working there, beautiful sight. And so we said, well, I can't really see the Three Islands. She goes, oh, that's an 8-mile drive. You got to go on the other side of the river. And so we never did that. We didn't go over there. She said it's a really pretty drive, but we're doing an assessment. If we would have had time, we probably would have done it. And she talked about it. And so, and by the way, it's hard to beat the Interpretive Center in Baker City, Oregon, the Oregon Trail Museum. If you watch that film, they will say 300,000 people traveled this 1,500 miles or whatever it was. And did you know that there was an average death for every 70 feet of trail? I will never, ever forget that line because it just sunk in. And so telling those stories would be a lot better than just telling about the relationship between the white settlers and the Native Americans. And so we drove on, beautiful outlooks along this scenic route. I think this is 30. Is this 30? Highway 30, something like that. I don't know how many Highway 30s are, but they kept kind of And so we did see the trail there. We did see about the fossil beds. And the fossil beds, it was more equine fossils, no dinosaurs or anything. So we kind of went, okay. And then we kept going in the navigation system, Thousand Springs State Park. And it kept putting in Mallet and all these other names. And I'm going, I want to find the state park. We never could find the state park. But as we're driving down, we could see all these springs, and they were awesome. I mean, it's amazing. Our only challenge is that there's no interpretive signs. This is the pull-off, and I'm sure it's somebody's private property, excuse me. And by the way, back there, I could see cars and stuff over there. I have no idea how to get over there. There's no signs, there's no ink. We tried. And so we did see that, and we did see the little winery there. And we did go out to the fish hatchery. It said, hey, you got to go check out the fish hatchery. And so we did go there, went in. It was pretty cool. There were people looking at sturgeon that are being raised there. But here's the other thing, is that the fish are gone. They're only there for like a month and a half a year. Right now, they're over inside buildings being spawned, and when they get to a certain age, then they put them out there, and then a month and a half later. See what I mean? So when you sell people on things, you need to give them more detail so they know what to expect. Okay? And by the way, they're great. So it was good. And then we did see mallard. Is that, you pronounce it mallard? Malad. Okay, Malad Gorge State Park. Went there, we saw this, with a name like Devil's Wash Bowl, you gotta go check it out. You have to. And what was interesting, we drove over the parking lot, and I have a big old honking camera, and a state park guy happened to be there. He goes, oh, I see your camera. You know what? Check this out. Here's a brochure. We had no brochure of this place. And he said, you know, if you go over this little bridge there by the interstate, and if you look down the face like 2/3 of the way down, you will see the face of the devil. I thought that was really cool. And it said, and then, so he gave us the brochure. We got in the car, we looked at it, and then we found out that Thousand Springs State Park is like 5 locations. No wonder. But that wasn't in any of our information. But here it is. We got this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. And I have no idea where the public property is and how you get to any of them. So we did check that out also. There's Jane looking over the bridge, and it was pretty, I mean, the views are stunning. I mean, that gorge is just incredible. Unfortunately, the bridge is right on top of the waterfall, so it's almost impossible to see the big waterfall. But you know what captivated us? There's a story of the 3 criminals, escaped criminals who hid in the gorge. I mean, we stayed there for 20 minutes just to read that story. For a month, it took a month long before they finally gave up. It was fascinating. We love stories. And so we did that whole thing. We didn't keep going down because we didn't want to get too close to Twin Falls, because if we were a normal visitor, we wouldn't come back to Mountain Home. But then it dawned on me that here it is, here's all the things, here's bliss. Love it, bliss in Paradise Valley. How great is that? And by the way, we love the name. Mountain Home is just an incredible name. And so we saw all this stuff, and I went, wait a second here. Why is Mountain Home promoting this when really it has no connection to Mountain Home? Because if you're going to do it as a day trip, you know what I would do is say, if you're going through Twin Falls on your way to Boise, take the scenic route and do this, right? Then maybe stop in Mountain Home because now it will be lunchtime. Or maybe you say if you're going from Boise down to Twin Falls, you got to take the scenic route. It takes maybe a couple hours longer. It's absolutely better than 84. And if you did that, but I'm trying to go, I'm not too sure what the benefit is for Mountain Home to promote this. Okay? And so maybe it would be, you know what, if you're in the area for quite a time and you want to do, like if you're at the base, then maybe say this is a great day trip to go do. But for visitors, you know, I think you need to stick closer to Mountain Home. So it'd be a great side trip. And so then we decided, okay, we're going to go see Bruneau Mars. Okay, it's Bruneau, right? Is that right? Bruneau? It is Bruneau. Oh, Bruneau, just like Bruno Mars? Okay, because somebody corrected us and said, no, it's Bruneau. Okay, well, that's good because I worked really hard all week switching from Bruno to Bruneau. So we went out there, used the navigation system, of course, and went out, I think that's 78, right? So we went out there, I saw it there, and I went, that's pretty cool. But you know what? It's a lot further away than it looks. And so we did go there, we went in there, and when you see pictures of people up here, all of a sudden, this is the lower dune, all of a sudden the scale comes into perspective. And so we went down there. Now, here's one thing I want you to do as a city. Quit promoting places and start selling activities. Because scenic vistas last 5 minutes, now what? So we drove down there, and you can get life vests, but there's no boats or anything. And so my first thing, you know what? If I was state parks, I would put concessionaires during the summer that could rent kayaks, rent canoes. I mean, and the state parks could get some of that money. They could even put a food truck there. It could be local vendors, somebody. But you go there, and all I can do is, I guess I could hike the dunes, but I can't. And by the way, there's nobody that's renting fishing rods or bait and tackle. I mean, somebody could make some money there. They would keep the money in the county and would keep it in the mountain home. And so we saw that there, and we thought, that's great that they do the life preservers, but I don't know, I guess you use them if you're swimming. And so it is absolutely what we call an anchor tenant to mountain home. You could easily spend a full day here, easy, if you had a boat, or even, we did see one family with kids on flotation mattresses, air mattresses. And so I did walk down here, went out on the dock, and then, I mean, are these bass? I don't know what these are, pike, bass, bluegills. Okay, but we did see a lot of trout in there. I don't know what they are, but we saw a lot of trout in there and went, oh my gosh, do they allow fishing here? Well, there's no information about fishing licenses, it's catch and release or catch and keep. No information. We're at the state park with no information. Well, all we had was directions how to get there. And so, but really cool. By the way, we did walk up there and I said, oh, I guess they must allow, because if you get about 3 feet away, you can see the faded words that say fish cleaning station. Here's the deal. If you want to make Mountain Home the base, your base camp for this experience, you need to provide specifics. What will I catch? Do I need a fishing license? Where do I get one? How much is that fishing license? What are the catch limits? What are the fishing seasons? What time of day is best? What kind of bait should I use? Is there a bait and tackle shop in town? All of this stuff, and I could find it nowhere. And by the way, that list, all those things you saw in yellow are private businesses. This is economic development. So, fabulous. I mean, look at that. Add scale to it when you see a person up there. We did see the observatory also. Looks great. It would be good if it had 24-hour visitor information, just one of those deals here that tells us about Mountain Home. That would be cool. What a way to close the sale for people that haven't been to Mountain Home. They might be from Twin Falls going to Boise, and they're stopping here. You might give them an excuse to come into Mountain Home. And even this would be great to do with more specifics. Looks fabulous. And even this is awesome and it really works, except for Jane is so short she didn't quite reach the 1 o'clock. But you know what you do is you stand on the month, and it was 1 o'clock, and that's when I realized it's lunchtime. But this place, I mean, phenomenal. Phenomenal. Why are you sending people 2 hours away when you have this, what, half an hour? If even that. I mean, you're the home base for this, not Boise, not anybody else. And so we're going to go a little side trip. You need to promote your anchor tenants. Here's one of the 2 brochures I want you to do. And this is the most important brochure you will ever do as a city, as a town, you name it. And that is the very best of Mountain Home. And I want you to do a brochure like this one in Alpena, Michigan. And I'm going to use it as an example. I'm going to pull it. I got one here somewhere. I know it's in here. Here it is. It's all it is this. Oops. And so this little brochure, promote your best restaurants, your best retail shops, your best attractions. And by the way, they even used a quote from me to do this. And in this little town of Alpena, Michigan, which is 4 hours away from Detroit, population 10,000. Okay, they're not close to Boise or Twin Falls. And they promoted their marriage. They picked their best retail shops, restaurants, you name it, and activities. By the way, here it is. I'm going through this. Every one of these were invited. I'm going to even give you the criteria you can use so politics doesn't get in the way. And every one of these people were invited to be in this, and they each paid $400 for their panel. Okay? Except the Besser Museum was really hurting. But there was enough from everybody else to cover it, so they paid $200. So now, here's what they did with this. They took this best of brochure, and I'll show you the criteria. They printed 20,000 copies. You know what they did? 10,000 population, I think they had about 3,000 homes. They mailed one, snail mail, to every single house with a little card. And here's what the card said, and I'm paraphrasing. The number one reason people travel is to visit friends and family. We hope you will hang on to this brochure so that when friends and family visit you, you will share with them the very best of what Mountain Home or Alpena has to offer. Because we believe that every dining room table should be a concierge desk. Within days, people start coming downtown Alpena going, I got this brochure. Walk into a merchant and said, how long have you been here? And the merchant would go, 10 years. Right? I'll bet it happens here. And you know what? The most asked question at any front desk in the world is, where's a good place to eat? Please don't hand me a list. Wouldn't it be cool if they could say, well, you know what? Here's a brochure, the very best of Mountain Home. It's got our top restaurants, our top retail shops, and our top 6 or 8, 10 activities in it. By the way, people here complain, you picked them and you picked me over me, and I think I'm just as good as them. So they had very strict criteria. You could have your own, but this is their criteria. Number one, they had to be highly regarded by somebody other than themselves. 80% positive peer reviews on TripAdvisor, Yelp, you name it, regional publications, Sunset Magazine, you name it. Number two, they had to have good curb appeal. Number three, they had to be open year-round in Alpena. Number four, they had to be open until at least 6. Get to a statistic about that. They had to be open at least 6 days a week. The day they could be closed was on Monday. And then they had to be unique to the area. No chains. We're not going to drive out of our way for Subway, no offense. And there's what you should do. You cannot let local politics get in. So when people claim, you know what some people said? That's the best $400 I never spent, because I didn't realize when they went into my neighbor's store, that's one of your anchor tenants, they also came into mine. Think about this. If you ever go over to the Village in Meridian or any mall, do you go there because there's cell phone dealers and Radio Shack? No, you go there for the anchor tenants, and while you're there, you might stop at GNC Nutrition, Radio Shack, cell phone dealers, all the little kiosks. Same thing with you as a community. This is the most important brochure you can do, because you know what? When you promote the best, success breeds success. And next year we hope we'll have 3 more you can add to it. See what I mean? So if they raise the bar, then they will be included, and you vet them every year. Best thing you could do. And absolutely, Legacy Park is on that list, and so is Bruneau Dunes State Park. So we came back in for lunch. And we remember Hannah and Ashley saying, you got to eat at Frankie's. And by the way, we went out there really quick. We could have easily spent the day out there had we had the right equipment or whatever, whether it's fishing, kayaking, canoeing. Okay? So we came back and we did find Frankie's. We didn't know what it was at first. All we saw was this reader board going across. And it said Frankie's, or, I caught the tail end of it. So we did go in, and it was 50s and 60s music. And I thought, okay, this could be pretty cool. So I did go to one of the girls afterwards when we were done eating. I said, she's like 20. I said, so do you get tired of this 60s music? She looked around, she goes, yes. It was so cute. She didn't want to say anything, but anyway, they're playing 50s and 60s music. I thought, man, you could do something really, really cool with this, because it played the 60s music. It's got the kind of old diner. Unfortunately, the furniture and all is like 1970s lounge. But still, I thought, if you could go take that little place and go get the old jukebox and set it there, even if it's not working. And then, Betty Boop, or you could go online, you could get all the old Union Station. I would just turn those walls into old memorabilia. I mean, you might have records hanging from the ceilings. You can go on websites. Could see them doing an old gas pump sitting in a corner. And by the way, you can go online, and we're going to give this, there will be an assessment findings and suggestions report that follows this. And in it, we'll give you a list of websites you could buy all this memorabilia stuff. People are selling it. I thought if they did that in there, all of a sudden you'd have a main attraction in downtown Mountain Home. That's what you're missing. And I thought that place could do it because it's got kind of the look and feel. I mean, this is in Kingman, Arizona. Look at that, Mr. D's. People love this old retro stuff. And so if they did that there, took it to a whole nother level, it would be awesome. People would go there just for that. So then we decided, okay, we ate lunch there. By the way, burgers are great. We decided to go do the cater rings. Okay? So it already looks like a bad idea. You go towards the base, you turn left, and you go over the railroad track 60 feet and turn left and follow the road. Well, which one? And by the way, if you start going down that road, you know what they say in the brochure? Check road condition. Where the hell am I going to check the road conditions? It's just as bad in the middle of the summer as it is in the winter. I look at that ruts. The ruts are like this deep. So, I mean, you can see, luckily I rented a Ford Explorer, so we had some high clearance. I mean, I could have laid in this rut and drove right over me a few times. And by the way, there were many times that we're driving in the grass, and I'm telling you, this summer, that could be a fire hazard with mufflers touching that stuff. I just, so we went down it, and I have a camera that kind of self-smoothed itself. But I'll just show you a minute of this. I mean, you see the car bouncing around. But, I mean, look at the ruts. They're like 6 inches deep. And by the way, you're driving out here, and every once in a while be a road spewing off. You don't know whether you're going the right way or not. And by the way, a navigation system is not going to get you back home when you're out here. So you can see the cars just moving all over. And, I mean, you can see where people are driving around. And, I mean, it's just, it was a little bit dicey. And so, I'm just showing you about a minute of this. And you see my hand holding the camera. Go, boy, And so, I mean, look at some of these ruts are so bad that they're creating new roads around the old road. And I have no idea whether this is public land, private land. It just says cater rings out this way. And then we see roads like this, and I don't know where that's going. So then we came here. Is this one of the crater rings? This is it? Well, the rocks here, the road ends and the rocks are like this high. I could just see having flat tires out there. And I'm really hoping that Avis never sees that video. I'll be on the do not rent list. But we drove all the way out there, and by the way, it takes a while to get out there because the roads are so rough. I'm going, that's it? I mean, we drove all the way for that? I'd take it off. Number one, if somebody tried to go out there in a passenger car, it'd be bad news. If somebody had a flat tire out there, it would be bad news. Even cell status was kind of spotty out there. I mean, I don't even know where the second one is, but I guarantee it's not worth it. And so, you know what? After Bruneau, are you kidding? So then we decided, okay, we're going to go do the Northwest. And so I go, I hope this is better. So we go right past our hotel out, highway, is that 20? We go out there, and within 5 minutes, I'm going, oh my gosh. And I have traveled extensively through the state, have done a lot of work with Idaho Office of Tourism over the years. And when I saw this, I went, holy smokes, this is incredible. And so, there's Castle Rock, Goodale's Cutoff. I mean, the signage is gorgeous. I mean, this is one of Idaho's best drives, bar none, period. And it needs to be promoted it that way. And I'll pass it on to the state. It is one of Idaho's best drives. I mean, it is phenomenal. By the way, Anderson Ranch, we thought was going to be a ranch out somewhere. So quit calling it Anderson's Ranch Reservoir. Call it Anderson's Ranch Lake or Anderson's Lake. Most reservoirs are called lakes. It has much more sex appeal than reservoir does. Remember what I said about, the devil's wash bowl or whatever? We didn't want to call that this, but that. But it's just phenomenal. I mean, so we drove up there. I mean, let's put scale when you see a little boat out here. I wish there would have been a little sailboat out there or something. Just phenomenal. So we drove up to the town of Pine, is that right? And we walked into Knit's Pine store. Well, it was really cool. We went in there because we didn't know what to do. The lady working, so we bought 2 Idaho spuds, of course. And she said, well, you know what? I said, we're not from here. Here's my first question. Is this a loop? Can we drive down the other side back? Because I thought if this could be a scenic route, it would be one of the best scenic loops in the United States. So she said, yeah, it's dirt roads, and there's one little rough patch. And we had just done the Crater Rings. And she goes, it'll take you a lot longer. And Jane looked at me and goes, nope, we ain't doing that. But she pulled out a snowmobile map, and she said, you know what you got to do? How far are you going to go? And we did not want to go to Featherville because now we're getting past our 45 minutes. And remember, we're assessing Mountain Home. And so she said, well, you know what you do is we're down here. I want you to drive up here. There's this little bridge called Johnson's Bridge. And there's a little hot springs there. And she said, but by the way, when you get there, it's just off to the right. There's the little pools. They're kind of man-made. So this is not a resort or anything. And she goes, make sure you wear shoes. I said, why? She goes, because the hot springs are coming. You have to walk kind of through the hot springs to get down. See, she gave us information that was extremely valuable because if we would have walked through there barefoot, we had no idea how hot that water was. And so she did. She says, by the way, if you ever go up there, here's Featherville. And then I said, well, you know what? This is Trinity Mountain. Are all these the Trinities? Is this called the Trinity Range? And she goes, I'm not too sure. But I hope it is because that's a great name. And so she did a really good job. And she said, by the way, if you end up coming down here, there's Fall Creek and all that. And we didn't even have time to go to the dam. We just went right past it. So we didn't go down that road because we didn't really have information even on that. Is it paved? Is it dirt? What are we going to see? Is it just a dam? Is it a beautiful outlook? I have no idea. So we did this, and we did drive up to Johnson's Bridge, and there it is. By the way, you should do itineraries. And when you do itineraries, you need to show photos like this. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But you can see that this is kind of a little pool. You can see where they put rocks here, and they put some more rocks here. And so here's Jane walking across the rocks. And so just to be able to get an idea that they're not expecting some big, huge resort. But what's really important is that there is hot water running down into each one of these. And so that people get an idea. And the reason you need to wear shoes is because this water here is like 200 degrees, just below boiling. And if you didn't know that, you might step in it and get scalded. And so it was really good that she gave us that information watching this down here. So I actually walked out in here, and this water out here is like 180 degrees because it's summer. The river's warmer. So it was really cool. This is so fun. So I went over under the bridge, and I just moved some of these rocks out of the way and let more water flow in, and within about 20 minutes, it was perfect hot tub temperature. See, and you could just do it. So a person could actually go there and adjust the temperature right for them. I mean, we could have spent 3 hours right there. And so then Jane, of course, had to go for a soak, and by then it was perfect. Although she didn't soak, we weren't ready. And then we said, you know what? Wow, we found this little thing up here. And we said, there's this culvert here. And I said, okay, it's a culvert, cold water. Hot water. And so I thought, okay, look at this. We even have hot pools right here. And by the way, in your itinerary, if you include pictures, you say there's a little trail right by it. You can walk down here. And by the way, don't be fooled. That is smoking hot water coming out of that thing. And by the way, not only would we put Anderson Ranch Lake, we would also put Johnson's Bridge as one of your anchor tenants. We had a great time out there. By the way, we could, you know what? Just promoting Bruneau and Anderson Ranch is easily worth a 2-night, 3-day stay in Mountain Home. You don't need to promote things in Boise and everywhere else. You have enough right here to get us to spend at least 3 days. And you know what's cool about that? The end of every day, it's back in Mountain Home. And I'm talking about tourism, but guess what? If I was looking for a place to live now that I've seen those two, now I got it with the motorhomes, the boats, I got it. It just all came together. And you know what? The river didn't matter. Let's blow it away. And I've worked in the Tri-Cities and everywhere else as the Snake River. And so, this is your key marketing message. We are home or hub to Anderson Ranch Recreation Area and Bruneau Dunes State Park, period. Because when you market it, that's what you should be selling right there. That is enough. That makes you a destination, not a day trip, right there. And just marketing those two things is a good reason to live here, right there. You know what? You just save yourself a fortune in more brochures and itineraries. And that reminds me, we want you to create them. Because there are brochures like this that say ranch, the Anderson's Ranch, let me go back to that, recreation areas. And it says areas, so I guess there's more than one. But then it just has like pictures. It just says a quiet stretch, snowmobiling. There's no specifics whatsoever. It's just pictures and something for everyone. By the way, I want you to remember, do not give the people that did these a bad time. They're doing the very best. They're really worked hard at producing these pieces. But let me tell you what you need to do to make it better. And so once again, it's nice it showed you the roads, and we did use this map when we got up there, and that was really great. But you know what? We did a whole video just on itineraries. So you know what? Our staff we're from Seattle. So I had Jordan in our office. I said, Jordan, do me a Seattle on foot one-day itinerary. Granted, it's Seattle. So he did this. And they put, at 7:30, you go to Olympic Sculpture Park. He went through the whole thing. 9 o'clock, you do this. And so we're talking about itineraries, we're talking about times. We're talking about specific places to eat, lunch at Ivar's. You know, if there's a cost, here's how much it costs to get into the state park. By the way, cool thing we found out when we went to the crossings, it's $5 to go into the park. And I said, well, you know, can I just buy like a year-long park pass? And she goes, well, how long are you here? And I said, well, just for the day, but we're going into a couple of parks. She goes, you know, this park pass you just paid $5 for it will work all day at any of our parks. I thought it was really cool. It was that helpful. And so anyway, we want you to do some itineraries. And you need to include businesses. So, you know, I just gave you one. But, you know, we went down to Bruneau. In morning, you could say, in the morning, we want to go down to Manhattan Cafe and order the omelet. It's incredible. And then once you do that, I want you to drive down to Bruneau. Now, if you're going to go down to Bruneau, rent a kayak or canoe first, or have somebody deliver, whatever it is, bring your fishing gear. When you go down there, I want you to spend half a day. Or you could say all day, depending on the 1, 2, or 3 day. See what I mean? Then when you come back, go to lunch here, and then when you go, see what I mean? And you need to do those. Include businesses. Very important. You cannot let politics get in the way. This is why hundreds of thousands of people subscribe to travel magazines, because they provide specifics and you're afraid to. Oh my gosh, we promote private. You can't use public money to promote private business. Forget that. That is garbage. Can you imagine? Why don't you come to Orlando? We have 172 attractions, but we can't mention any of them by name because they're all privately owned. We want you to visit us in Napa Valley, where we have 232 wineries, and they're all privately owned. Otherwise, we would tell you about them. You need to promote private business. This is economic development. Specifics. And by the way, public art, you know what? That Anderson Ranch, I bet you people in half of the United States have heard of Lake Coeur d'Alene. They've never heard of Anderson Ranch. And, you know, I love Lake Coeur d'Alene. But you know what? It's like a freeway out there on that lake. I saw one boat on yours. By the way, maybe you may be saying, that's exactly the way we like it. We do not want to tell anybody about it. I totally get it. But articles are read 3 times more than ads. Publicity is more credible. It's third-party. You can use me saying this is one of the West's best drives. There we go. I kept them off the lake and on the streets. Okay? For every dollar you spend on public relations, $3 in earned media. What it would cost if you had to buy that space in a magazine? So you know what you should do is find clubs and organizations. They're looking for places to send their readers. So for instance, if you own a Beamer, you will get BMW Magazine. It has drives all over the world. But if you belong to the BMW Car Club of America, they'll give you drives around the United States. If you send them that itinerary with some photos, they'll probably publish it for free in multiple pages. You know why? Because it caters to their readers. And that drive is awesome. It's just an incredible drive. And then, by the way, this is the one in Seattle. I'm sure there's probably a Boise one. Seattle's BMW Car Club has amazing, comes out every month. And in Seattle, this month in August, they're sending everybody to Canada, to Squamish and Whistler. So you know what? I emailed and said, why did you send people to Canada? It says, well, because the town of Squamish sent us a sample itinerary. We thought it was really cool, so we published it, and we had 200 cars go up there. 3 days. Didn't cost them a dime. You know, the very next month, Cannon Beach, Oregon. This is Seattle. They're sending them out of state, and it's working. You know, Mountain Tristy's drive recap. And I'm telling you, it doesn't matter whether it's BMW or whether it's Mercedes. Every month, Leavenworth, if it's Seattle, Leavenworth, you know, the Bavarian town, Camino Island. I mean, there's Subarus and Mustangs and you name it. There's a car club for just about everything out there. Let alone that drive, Harleys, Goldwings. I mean, what an incredible motorcycle ride that is up there. So, find local writing. I bet you got club members here to write these. Have them write them up, photograph them. And here's one thing that's really important. When you market a town and you need to market specifics, that is a problem with chambers. Chambers market chamber members. So we got a list that listed the shopping, and I think it was a chamber directory, listed the shopping, and probably your top 3 or 4 shops weren't even listed because they're probably not chamber members. So that's why chambers can't really do tourism very well unless you have a person, because that's what happens. Say, well, why should I join if you're going to promote somebody who's a non-member? You have to promote, you have to think about your customer, not your membership. And that's always a challenge. Always a challenge. So, when it comes into these 2 and 3 hour trips, these would tell you how to get there, but it just doesn't really give you enough to close the sale. And there's no photographs or anything. So these are things we could fix in the best of brochure. But they did the good thing. Here's Balance Rocks, Shoshone Falls, Mammoth Caves. A lot of them we didn't do. By the way, you could do sample itineraries by type of travel. By the way, multi-generational is the big deal. People like us with kids and grandkids doing these kinds of trips. So even things like brochures like this, come play in our big backyard, and it's, you know, and by the way, you need to show people. This could have been taken in just about any city, anywhere. The sign doesn't really, so no, I'm not being a critic here, but, well, I am being a critic. And so I think, you know, this, like, we trying to figure out these loops, we really couldn't figure it out. And so sometimes you just have to so I didn't consider these, even though they're kind of itineraries, it didn't include private business, it didn't tell you how long to take or spend at each area. And so while it was a really good attempt, I think you could take it up a notch by doing that. And by the way, for anybody developing brochures, I don't care whether you're business or public sector, one thing's really important, the top 3 inches of your brochure are critical. And so always use yellow dark background. People don't care. People could care less about Mountain Home, by the way. They're looking for the best fishing. They're looking for the best kayaking, the best hunting. They're looking for those things. And by the way, they happen to be in Mountain Home. Get it? So the top 3 of your brochure should always sell the experience, and then who's doing it, private and public. So I spoke at the tourism conference up in Lewiston a couple years ago. But before that, I had spoken there, and I used a guy's brochure that just had the name of the company at the top. So then about 4 months later, he sends me his new brochure. Would you pick it up? Darn straight. Yeah. Yellow on a dark background, sell the experience first. And so there it is. That's what you see, the houseboat from hell. And then, by the way, of course, it's Hell's Canyon. It's on the back. And you know what? I called him up and I said, fantastic brochure. What happened? He goes, well, first of all, I went through 10 times more brochures. I said, but are they picking up and going, what the heck? What the hell? Are they picking them up and doing that and then throwing them away? He says, well, you know what? They're probably throwing away for a amount of them, but it increased my business by more than 350%. 350%. And I said, so tell me about that. And he said, here was so funny. He said, people would pick this up. They weren't even thinking of renting a houseboat. But when they saw this picture, and he put in there, if you've never driven a houseboat, I will give you 3 hours worth of lessons. He said most of my 300% increase, 350% increase, was first-time houseboaters. And they're paying for the extra insurance. You know, they're staying longer. And he said, yeah, it was just total genius. It works. Sell the experience first. And by the way, we're Mountain Home. Or we're the name of whatever business you are. Even in your ads, all ads, Mountain Home should be down there, not at the top. It's never about you as a city. Always one signature photo that goes, yeah, evokes emotion. Okay? Then your headline, grab life by the handlebars in this case. Then you could put a subhead. There isn't one on this one. Then, hopefully that's enough to get you down here to read the body text. Never more than 100 words on your homepage or on any brochure cover. Photographs really are worth 1,000 words. And then the logo, Devon, Alberta, which by the way is Biketown, Alberta. And then the website, ridedevon.ab.ca. And then the exclamation point, enjoy the ride. Devon, Alberta, Biketown, Alberta. So, most of your photography I saw was okay, but it didn't jump out at me. So I want to talk about your photography for a second. They really are worth it. In my book, the 25 Mutable Rules of Successful Tourism, we talked about they're worth 1,000 nights. You always want your photography to be an activity that's unique to you. I have seen gazillions of pictures of little kids being face painted at the county fair, and I could do that at any one of 3,500 county fairs across the country. Cute, but not enough to say I'm going to choose you over somebody else. Get it? And so all your photographs, experience in the foreground, location in the background. Experience in the foreground, location in the background. They should include these 4 things in all your photographs. Number 1, people. We relate to people more than places. And by the way, when you put people in there, it adds scale and depth. Okay? And they need to be in an activity, not standing there doing a selfie. They need to be kayaking, fishing. They need to be doing that kind of stuff. So far, I got Jerry's approval, right? Okay? It needs to be unique to you. It needs to evoke emotion that would go, wow, wow. When I saw that little fishing boat down there in that lake, I was going, man, I wish I was on that boat. I can't imagine what these cliffs look like. And then sell a feeling more than a place. Look at this. On your journey through life, make sure your biography has at least one extraordinary chapter. I heard it. Somebody said, wow. That's what you need to do. Nothing sells like a smile. Having a great time is always rules. Smiles are contagious, even in photographs. Experience first, location second. Experience first. I mean, always people enjoying the activity in a great setting. Okay? And there you go. When you evoke emotion, it creates top-of-mind awareness. We remember you. And so, yeah. Some of you are going, not a chance in heck am I doing that. But you know what? It works. Let me go back to that. I mean, does that make you want to go whale watching on the Pacific? That's Westport, Washington. Does that evoke emotion? And by the way, it doesn't always have to be extreme. It could be as simple as that. That was taken up in Winthrop, Washington. Or that. And the one place where you don't need people in photographs is lodging. By the way, the new trend, glamping. Glamorous camping. And even people camping want air conditioning, heat, and Wi-Fi. That's why I call it glamorous camping or glamping. But we want people having a great time. Okay? Photography. Should be your number one priority is developing a great photo library. And by the way, we're in the visual first movement now. So, I want you to invest in professional. You got photographers, and Jerry's not the only one. You got photographers in this town. You have so much talent in this town. I mean, look at this is a motel that I saw where I think it was in Nova Scotia somewhere, and they went out there and they went out there and spent money on their hotel, but they did professional photography so much so that they are outselling and have higher occupancy than all the chain hotels. And it's a little more, if it wasn't for the photography, I mean, when I saw that, I went, wow, I want to stay there. I said, I'm sorry, we're booked up 4 months in advance. It's a mom and pop motel. And yeah, they did a good job, but the photography really did a good job. So, redesign your websites. You know what? I mean, for B&Bs and stuff, look at, these days, you look at websites, they're visual first. Even city websites. Just visual first. That's for B&B. I mean, look at this. This is for the town of Squamish, north of Vancouver, on the way to Whistler. And, I mean, they do an amazing job. And it just scales down to mobile. Nothing sells like photography. Look at these stats. Facebook, photos perform best for likes, comments, and shares. And then Pinterest, the photos generate more referral traffic for business than Google+, YouTube, and LinkedIn combined. As a matter of fact, 20% have purchased after seeing the experience without even going to another website. TripAdvisor, properties with 20 or more photos get 150% more engagement. And look at this. 92% of women post and refer products, getaways, and vacations with friends via Facebook. By the way, you know how much men share? 26%. So, what I want you to do is I want you to get copies of Architectural Digest, Travel + Leisure, all these magazines, and then ask yourself, are our photos good enough to be showcased in their magazines? And when you got that, then you got it. So after all that, we got back from Anderson Ranch, and we did go out to the base. We did not go in because they wouldn't let us. But we did go out there and check it out. And by the way, on our way out, we saw lots of people doing the bypass. So then we went, because it's the number one rated place on TripAdvisor, Shoke. It's not Shiok. I asked. So even though, and I hope that's right, because obviously I wasn't right when I heard Bruneau. And so I did see the sign there, love the slogan, ridiculously delicious. From curb appeal, I kind of went, yeah, I don't know. But it was rated so well, and it was referred by Ashley and Hannah at the hotel. And so we did go in, and it was fabulous. Absolutely fabulous. And we learned that he is from, is it Singapore? From Singapore, retired here, Air Force. He's actually with his wife in Singapore this week. And so, see what I mean? We're getting to know everybody in town. And it was incredibly delicious and absolutely needs to be on your best of list. Absolutely. It is the best Asian restaurant in Idaho, and it might be one of the very best in the entire Northwest. It's that good. Yeah. Okay? So now, yesterday, you're finally going, when is he ever get to Mountain Home? We're here now. Here we go. I'll kick it into high gear now. And of course, we get up in the morning and say, we're going to go check out Mountain Home. Oh, rats. There's no signs that tell you where it is from the hotel. Well, by now we figured it out. But we decided, okay, we're going to go up here, Rattlesnake Station. We did read somewhere about Rattlesnake Station, about how the town used to be there when the railroad came in. They moved it down. And then I'm trying to figure out whether the tank was there to chase away tourists. I have no clue what it has to do with Rattlesnake Station at all. But somebody like Rotary must have been given a free tank and they needed to park it somewhere. And this is why Rotary kicked me out of the club. No, they didn't, but I get lots of fines. And so we did check that out. And then we did see, oh, I remember that little teeny sign for a golf course, let's go down that road. And so we did go down there. On our way down there, we saw a Ranger District office. I went, cool, that's cool. Didn't even know it was down there. And so we went there, and lo and behold, well, look at that, they have a visitor information kiosk. And you know what was really cool? You don't see this very often. They actually had Mountain Home brochures in it. Yes, although there could be another one right there. There's a space for one. The best of Mountain Home. But that was cool that it was right there. It said other side for closures. We did check the other side. And by the way, since this is a radio station, Crater Rings was not on the closure list. So if you want to go out there in your sports car, good luck. While we were there, we saw this little pull-off. I went, what the heck is that? And then we saw this sign there. And we saw this little pathway system. So we pulled in there. It was cool. I told you it's 2.5 mile, 1.2 Desert Canyon Trail, and the Bermidsolo Path. I'm not really sure how you pronounce it. And so we did drive up a little bit, and we did check out. We saw a family going by. Talk about posing perfectly. And we thought, I think it's a really great amenity. I wouldn't consider attraction because it runs right alongside the freeway. Now, however, if I'm staying at any one of those hotels, I want to go out for a morning run, fantastic. A great amenity. Great amenity. And it does go by the golf course. And we love the fact that there was these farming, ranching, agricultural implements there. I didn't know from the freeway, the people, whether they'd look like junk or not, but they're spaced on it. They look nice, even from the freeway. And it's cool because they actually tell you how they were used. And I thought that was great. So good job. Then we did go down the street and we did get to the golf course. Now we're coming the way most people probably come. And I see that, I take that picture. Here's my question. Is it open for public play? Okay. Is there cart and club rentals? Okay. Is there a pro shop? Is there food? Where's the sign that says any of that stuff? It's inside, great. You know, Visitors Day are impatient. If it's not obvious, they go next. So put up a sign there. As a matter, if you come from the other direction, which I'm sure the residents do, it does say something about a restaurant. Pro shop and restaurant. But when we pulled in, we did see, obviously, they do sell food. And then we did see a really great little driving range there. I mean, you know, and I'm sorry if he's here in the audience. This was during the workday the other day. Somebody skipping out on work? No, okay. Anyway, a nice putting green. Just fabulous golf. It's a municipal course, right? Fabulous. And it is 18, right? See, these are all the things that are missing. All you need is a sign. It says open for public play, 18 holes, par 72, 6,500 yards, court rentals. All you need is a little less like there, and your sales will probably go up, unless it's like Anderson Ranch and you don't want people to find it. Okay? So, Absolutely, I put it on the list. Great. We drive down towards town. We do see that. Great. Now, one thing to remember with these things, you need to put them where somebody can pull over and read them. You know, because if you're going to invite us for lunch or whatever, you can't pull over here. And I can't remember, I think this is the power company or something's in there. We pull over in there anyway. I hope they don't mind. But that's one thing you need to remember. But it's beautifully landscaped, nicely done. And I thought Mountain Home Organizations welcome you. Great job. However, this one is right downtown in a place where there's no place to stop. It's way up on a pole. You know what here? I think this might have been Lions. Can't tell anymore. And you know what? I want you to switch from the Pioneer to something a little more modern. And I'm not sure what Beta Sigma Phi is. And so I just thought I would take it down. I'm not sure what purpose it serves. As we're driving down the road, American Legion Boulevard looks great. Saw the RV park right there, and it looked fabulous. Looked really nice. And by the way, that is your pretty stretch, although there are a few little challenges. I would also have a city ordinance that does not allow chain link fence in your core downtown area. Just makes you look like a Gestapo city. You can do, there's vinyl rod that look like wrought iron, but they're made out of vinyl. There's all kinds of other alternatives than chain link. So places like this, I go, man, is there a way we could start working with these? All the blinds and the windows were all broken and everything. We're just going, okay. And then, you know, you run into places like this, and I don't even know what to say. You know, it might be a really good food truck, but even the motorhomes had a lot of junk piled around and everything, mobile homes. And so, you know, you just got this, it's like, holy smokes. I mean, you might have a beautiful house and next door is one you're going, whoa, what happened here? And so hopefully that's getting better over the years. I don't know which way it's going. And then we did get downtown, we did go to the museum, and it was great. So I was out taking pictures. Jane went in, she said the museum did a good job telling story. The one suggestion is tell even more stories. We like stories. And words to avoid in museums and historic attractions, never use words like artifacts, collections, you know, things like that that mean static, who donated items, because you know what? That tells everybody, boring. And so tell stories. We love stories. And we did see the park there. It was really funny because people are at work during the day and the irrigation system starts at about 5 o'clock and goes till about 8:30. So if you want to use the park, you have to do it during the day, skip out of work, because otherwise we're watering the hell out of the place. So at least that was yesterday and the day before. I mean, and by the way, the jet is getting a wash every night. I don't know how good that is on the metal, but at least it's clean. And so, beautiful park though, really. In all honesty, beautiful park. Playground in the back and everything. People over in the city, we have Parks Department people here. Am I getting you in trouble? Okay. So this is why when we do the assessments the next morning, we have to scoot out of town really fast. Yeah. It's also called biting the hand that feeds you, you know. And so anyway, we did see the community gardens. Fabulous. Loved it. Next to the USDA office. So we kept going, man, what are brand ideas? And I kept thinking, equestrian. You know what? I thought, could you do something in the air? You have the Air Force here. Could you do skydiving here? Balloon rides, gliding, pilot lessons, hang gliding, and other air sports? Could you do fly-ins and everything? And so I thought, we got to check that out. You got the Air Force here, and these people love the air. I understand you might have protected airspace with all around you, so I don't know if that's feasible, but it's something we're just thinking of, okay? And then we thought, well, maybe it's fishing and hunting. But you know what? I'm trying to find a place in Idaho that doesn't say they're fishing and hunting, let alone Oregon, Nevada, Wyoming, everybody around you, Washington, you name it. And then Radiator Springs. Anybody watch that movie, Cars? I just went, you know, you got some cool retro stuff here. So anyway, I thought, okay, let's start checking these out. So we did drive out to the airport. I like the way they use the reader board here. And apparently nothing ever happens there. But I did see somewhere, learn to fly here. So we drove in. Now, here's my question. Is this somebody's house or is this the airport office? Does anybody know? It is the office. There's no sign that says office. I see 2 cars in the garage. And so we didn't know. We didn't dare walk in because we thought, we're going to be interrupting somebody at house. Is this a fixed base operator? A fixed base, can you get fuel there? Are there tie downs? Can you do, okay, see, there's no information. There's no sign here that says, by the way, we have tie downs. We're a fixed base operation here. Do they do skydiving lessons or anything? Or you can learn to fly, but don't know? Okay, you learn how to fly. And so we thought it was cool, but we didn't. And it's pretty close to the Air Force Base, so that any of this airspace thing might be a problem doing that as a brand. We don't know. But you know what? I'll bet you everybody that works at that base is an enthusiast in that sport. I mean, so I thought, wait, how could we engage the Air Force? That might be an option. Think of Oshkosh, Wisconsin, biggest flying in the country. Everybody knows Oshkosh, and by the way, its population is not much bigger than yours. And then while we were downtown, we saw this really cool building across the tracks. We had no idea how to get over there. I mean, look at the tracks. So we don't know which roads you go down or anything, but we finally figured out a way to get around there because there's no wayfinding. And we did get around there, and we ran into this. We saw a great, I think that's all Basque. I'm not sure what this big, huge bunker is. It's got some things here. What is this? Anybody know? Oh, it's the handball court. Okay. So we did see that there. And we obviously saw this. And then, by the way, I don't know what this is. I don't know what Euskadi means. I know what biscotti is, but I don't think it's the same. And so, and I don't know if this is a region in Spain or something where they're from, or whether it's just a black blob. So why don't you put some interpretive signage there so we know what we're looking at? Oh, really? Well, I walked right up to those, and it's so hard to read, we didn't even see that there was writing on them. Okay, that's good to know. I'll have to recheck it out. Beautiful little park. Loved it. Loved this. It'd be great if you had translations there. You know, more, is there an interpretive sign on this one? Nope. Okay. And we did see the little shop. It was great. So, other notes, first impressions, before I come back into downtown. Number one is we did find Optimus Park, which was not very optimistic looking. As a matter of fact, we did see what looks like rodeo grounds, and does anything ever happen here? Then put up a billboard that says every June, whenever it is, rodeo. Invite us back. You do nothing in this city that ever invites us back. Nothing. Okay? And no offense, but we went to the trouble of finding it, now what? And then we saw this. I'm not too sure what this is or was. It looks like it's been abandoned for at least 10 years. It's mud racing. Is it still operate? Never know. We did see this, and we figured this either had to be motocross, cyclocross, or 4x4. Motocross. No signs, no information, no coming events, nothing. Yet it could be something cool. And it might be. And while we're over there, when we were driving by on the way to the Air Force, we thought this was the airport. It took us half an hour to get there because you have to go a certain way. Went down the bypass. It didn't go in. Then we came back down this way. And then we saw it was Marathon Cheese, and we thought that's cool. And so we came back into downtown. We see places like this, thought, man, that should be a restaurant with little cafe tables out there. Sidewalks are a little bit rough, but that's an easy fix. We saw this. We thought this is a really great gathering place. It's got lots of tables and chairs. I mean, this is just a great little place to come and hang out, except it's like 15 minutes. Get your stuff and get out of here now. If the line is 10 minutes long, you better get ready to scoot because we do not want you hanging around here. I mean, I understand there's not very many parking places there, but really? Now, we were there. We did eat ice cream there. We were there for probably 25 minutes, and our car did not get towed. But you know what I mean? You create this cool little place, you can drive it, and it says 15 minutes. And so, the coolest thing about Mountain Home was places like this. This was just like, I mean, now this one needs some work. There's some stuff, but I just thought this really cool, retro, mid-century, like that sign, I just thought that was the coolest sign everywhere. I mean, I remember 50s and 60s, this concrete block was in style. I mean, it was just, now by the way, this, right there, if I saw that, I would not stay there. That hurts the motel more than it helps. And people don't understand that. But really cool signage. Even this, I love the old retro. Now here you got to take care of it's free inter, and we have ESPN and HBO, and I'm not sure what the free inter is. I guess the rest of internet fell off the sign. But anyway, it's just the whole building looks like really cool. You know, even this, I mean, you know, I tell everybody all the time that the words lounge and cocktails went out in the 1970s with leisure suits. But you know, I guess it's coming back, but I just thought the sign was really cool. Coldest beer in town. You know, I mean, even this was really, really cool. Love the old fire truck. And then this is the sign over there. Everything you're doing is retro. Why don't you guys embrace it and be it? I mean, you know, and I mean, really, I just thought it was really cool. Even this sign here telling you the parking rules is kind of built in the old 1960s way. This is my favorite sign in the whole town is the one that says gallery. Gallery's gone, but the sign is still cool. And so I just thought everywhere you go, even these cool little murals there, it just was like, this place is so cool. You got this, and down the road, you know, the old, Desert Inn Cafe. I wish they wouldn't have added the restaurant. Oh, I'm glad they did because you can't read the sign during the day. But, I mean, just everywhere you went, we saw this really cool mid-century feel. I thought, you know, that is the coolest stuff. And even young people, millennials, think that stuff is cool. And, you know, I mean, just right next to it is the Save More Drugs sign. And it was just really cool. Even the movie theater, which, by the way, it said there's a movie theater. It took us forever to find it. But even it has kind of a cool old-style sign. And even your local paper has a really cool retro kind of looking sign. And we noticed down the road that you even have a sign company that makes those signs. And by the way, this is even a sign. And so I thought, you know, if you guys did kind of a mid-century theme, you'd have classic car shows. They'd be coming here instead of Boise or Twin Falls. They'd be coming here. And then you'd do motorcycle rallies, quilt, and even art guilds. And by the way, you say, what do quilt guilds have to do with this? Because you know what? Do you know quilt guilds, it's 98% women. I've never met the other 2% guys. But the men always come with them and they have nothing to do. Okay? Film producers who need mid-century settings, restaurants. You already got like Frankie's. You already got a bunch of these kinds of places. You know, you could do mid-century living exhibits around town. I mean, we just kept going. You could do sock hops, classic movies on a square. I'm going to get to that. Concerts, auto shows and auctions, motels with themed room. You want to take an old hotel? If somebody has a mom and pop hotel, here's what you could do. First of all, the beds need to be good quality. They should not be retro. No mid-century beds. But I got an idea for anybody. Wouldn't it be cool if you could theme a room around a year? You might theme a room of 1964. And it might be the year somebody was born, the year they got married, the year they graduated from high school. But we would go pick the year. So you might have a 1958, a 1964, a 1967 Flower Power Room, 1969. You know, you could do 1974, 1979, John Travolta. I did the tour management for the Bee Gees Saturday Night Fever tour. And so you could do, wouldn't that be cool? And in it, you would have Life magazines, you'd have Everything would fit that era, except for the bed. And you would just, I mean, people would do it, and they'd say, well, last time I stayed in this room the year I got married. This time I'm going to go back to the year I graduated from high school. If somebody wanted to do that, your hotel would be an attraction. But what you do is you theme each room, make sure it's good quality, but you theme it. And then they walk in the room, it's music from that year. You know, it's newspapers from that year, Life magazine, National Geographic from that year. How cool would that be? If that's how you take an old motel and make it cool. I mean, by the way, we went to Manhattan's. You know what? I would have never in a million years stepped in that place because it looked like a good old boys, bar, right? It says it's open from 6 to 2. I didn't know whether that was 6 p.m. to 2 a.m. or 6 a.m. to 2 p.m. And, of course, we walked in there, and there was some old guys in there, Jerry. No kidding. Just kidding. And it is the coolest place. It is just awesome. And, by the way, best burgers in town. Best burgers in town. I mean, by the way, you know what? She said, oh, the burgers are huge. Most people cut them in half. Jane ordered the kid burger, and it was the biggest burger I ever seen. And it was really awesome. That, by the way, Jerry was sitting at the next table, so we ended up in a conversation. But it's just really cool. Talk about mid-century. The only thing I would do in there is get rid of all this crap off the ceiling. Leave it open beam, leave it open to the air ducts and whatever, and make it, because they've done that. Everything else is all works. But Manhattan Cafe, I absolutely put it on the best of. It's a great place. And so I just thought, everywhere you go, this is a guy and his wife had this little foundation. And so they created a place in Sharpsville, Indiana called a summer place. Jay Leno came there, his own dime. I mean, look at they do all these events and weddings and everything. If you did this, people think it's cool. You go to the web and do, by the way, it used to be retro, now they call it mid-century. I guess that's cooler than retro. But this does not just cater to boomers. It caters to younger people. They think it's just the coolest era ever. And, because when you come in, here's the deal. I always say embrace your history. And you have a lot of Basque history. But you have to understand, we also worked in Elko, Nevada, and all over those places where there's Basque. We're here for things to do, not things to look at. And your mid-century are things to do, whether they're restaurants, sock hops, whatever you do around it. And so I think it's important to embrace the Basque history, but it's not really a great idea it's nothing for people to do. So I had this idea. This is where we start. You may say he's going off the rails. But you know what? When you come up this way into downtown, there's nothing that says to turn or anything. So we saw this. So according to local rumors, by the way, you'll learn a lot about the town just talking to locals. Not sure how much of it is true, but we understand that Albertsons bought Paul's and then shut it down. Just so you know, Safeway now owns Albertsons. You know what I would do? I would go to Albertsons, which is right downtown, say, Albertsons, why don't you give us that building? Because we want to turn it into a year-round, open every day public market. Nobody in the greater Boise area has a year-round public market. Boise has a pop-up farmer's market that lasts a few hours every week. That's it. So if you took that and you turn it into a public market and then take this whole parking lot and turn it into a gathering place. So what if? So there it is from overhead. Here it is right here. What if that became the Mountain Home Public Market? And it would be open till 9 o'clock at night, 6 or 7 days a week, year-round. It's not a farmer's market. It's a public market. It has art in it. It has antiques in it. It has locally crafted gifts, photography, paintings, pottery, you name it. What if that was there? Then what if that entire thing became a plaza? Why don't you just shut down this little road right here? Do you really need this little road? It's easy to get around. What if this whole thing? So now the little, what is it? Stockyard would be on the plaza now. And so what if this was all pedestrian only plaza area? Just what ifs. and you had a central gathering place. You know what? I'll bet you if I asked people in Mountain Home, where do you go to hang out? Most of them would probably say some other city or Legacy Park. And then I thought, and what if you put street trees all the way around it? So it was all in this like a courtyard. And what if you even put kind of a plaza in there? So that asphalt, we changed the asphalt. I'll show you a way to do that. And you put a stage there in the corner so you could host car shows and everything. And then you'd have all this room for booths. So you could expand your market outdoors. You could do all kinds of car shows there. You could fill this whole thing full of cars, motorcycles, and then have all your vendors down here. Stockyard would be doing great. And by the way, all of a sudden becomes part of it. And by the way, so does that cool trail it goes down. I don't know how far it goes, but it looks really pretty. And then, by the way, you already have the parking lot, but there's no place for anybody to go. Right? And so you already got the parking. It's beautiful and even has its own park. And it's right across the street. All of a sudden, you're monetizing a great asset. You're monetizing. All of a sudden, you're putting value to that, and that. And then, by the way, this is your core downtown area. You know what I say when you want to fix a downtown? Don't try to fix it all. Go one area and make it a showcase. Because you got Manhattan's right in here. You got her great shop. Ciccotti Interiors, it's Ciccotti Interiors, which is, has done a fabulous job. And then you've got, I know that Frankie's is down here. You already got the makings of 10 restaurants right in this little area right now. And maybe some of the other shops will convert. You know what you have to do to revitalize the downtown? What comes first? People there on a consistent basis. You know what? If we had 500 people a day here, all these businesses we'd be doing way better than they're doing. That's all you need, 500 people a day out of 15,000. Actually, you have more than that because I'm getting to it. And you know what? You do that, and all of a sudden, people are going to be pouring in. Because where the people are consistently, retailers follow. Now, you may say, well, we do downtown events. You need to have people there at least 250 days a year, not 6 days during events. If you do 250 days a year, that merchant still has 110 they got to figure out on their own, 250 days worth of activities. And it's fairly easy to do it. I'm going to show you. But you know, closing off the street would just make it so pedestrian friendly. It would tie things together. You know what? Has anybody in this room ever sat in that bench? There's nothing to look at except a chain link fence. And so all of a sudden this would be usable space. And by the way, you could even close down one of these lanes and have this 2 lanes with angle-in parking. Did you know angle-in parking increases retail sales by 20%? How many of you say, whoa, I love parallel parking? By the way, they're teaching cars how to parallel park themselves. And so you could even do that and give you wider sidewalks. The parking lot you already own, you have, now would be monetized. And the other way, even these street trees, by the way, we thought you're Canadian with all the maple leaves. And even those, we thought those you could put around that plaza. Just make more of those. And then all we need to do is a really cool crosswalk to get from here to here. Because the parking's right there, and this is it. This whole thing would be all pedestrian. How cool would that be? And by the way, you would just take out the chain link fence and put in something like that. And all of a sudden, people are going to come and they're going to go, whoa, what is this? They're going to slow down instantly. They're going to go, this is cool. So you take Jackson and whatever the 2nd Street, Southwest, East, whatever it is. See, Jackson, I can remember. And so you do that. This is a fantastic building. It looks like somebody doesn't really care about it, but it's a fantastic building. You know, right down the corner, Curly's has done a great, beautiful outdoor little seating area. This is all right there. So if you have to start somewhere, and by the way, you got all of this stuff. So market. All you do is you go in there, you take out all the fluorescent lights and all the suspended ceilings, got that thing, it could look like this. Wouldn't that be the coolest thing ever in Mountain Home? Wouldn't it be cool if people from Boise came here instead of the other way around? Or instead of them going from Boise to Meridian and Nampa and soon to be Caldwell, rather than coming this way. This would be an attraction all by itself. And by the way, every one of these booths in here is a business incubator. How cool would that be? You know, and part of this would be what they did in Asheville in the Woolworth store. They turned it into an art market. So you'd have art market, prepared foods, and raw foods in season. You're the heart of agriculture country. Leverage it. Somebody in this area's got to do it. Plaza, you know what? People are the heart of a downtown, your plaza's the soul. We're moving to the European standard. In Europe, South America, every town is built around a piazza. We're in the age of third places. First place is the place we live, it's our home. Second place is where we live, or where we work. And the third place is the place we go to hang out. Starbucks built an entire brand around being third places. In Rapid City, South Dakota, they took a 1-acre lot right here, parking lot. This is a Sears building. I told them, take the Sears building down and build a 2-acre plaza there. I got a call from a guy that says, Roger, my name is Ray Hillebrand. You know what? We're not taking down that Sears building. I agree we should put a plaza right there on that 1-acre parking lot, 65 spaces. But I just bought that Sears building. But I also gave the city $2 million to build a plaza next to my new building. He now has the most valuable building in all of Rapid City. It looks like that in the summer. Music, splash pad runs 120 days a year. They wish the splash pad was this size. 120 days. So I mean, it doesn't have to be event days, it just needs to be activity. By the way, 120 days. They make $130,000 a year renting ice skates, and they have to dole them out because it gets too busy. That right there is 240 days a year of activity. You know, you've probably been over to the Village, because downtowns don't get it. Lifestyle retail developers are building new downtowns. But the problem is they're not organic. They're chains. And they're cool and they're nice. And people, you go there. You know, we said downtown Rapid City. We walked into 24 merchants. Every single one said, best thing Rapid City has ever done. There's no retail vacancies. There's a lower turnover. Businesses are open later in the evening. Retailers are breaking sales records. I mean, the average, by the way, within 2 years of them building Main Street Square in Rapid City, the average age of a person buying a home dropped 12 years. The youth were coming back. Great place for conferences, conventions, trade shows, you name it. It is the gathering place. You don't have one. You have Legacy Park. But we think it needs to be near restaurants and activity and things like that. A year-round activity center includes interactive water feature, ice rink, you named it. I mean, these are the kinds of things you could do. So in Caldwell, they're going to build one. I don't want you to even do, this is expensive. I think if you take that parking lot, you could make a cool gathering place, put up big tents, just bring in cars and everything. But here's what they're going to do in Caldwell. They have Indian Creek. You know, the city spent nearly $10 million building this whole creek. Right downtown. This is their core downtown area. It wasn't programmed. Didn't do anything. They still had like 70% vacancies. It needs to be programmed. So you know what they're doing now? The city bought a building on this lot, tore it down. They're going to close the street. This entire thing is going to be a plaza, and it's going to look like that. Every town should have one. That's about $5 million. They're already committed to doing it. But they also have a population of 50,000. I just think if you take that parking lot and you can make it look like this kind of a surface so that it's not just aggregate or just not asphalt. But did you know there's another cool thing you could do? Sorry, I'm going over my time, but this is called street print. See these? These are not paver stones. That is actually embossed down in the asphalt. You can do snow removal over it. It's not paint. It'll last for 20 years. It's like $6 a square foot. Notice the guys doing that side. They just finished this side. You could drive on instantly. We thought if you took that whole parking lot and made it into a really cool plaza, ringed it with trees, and then maybe you even put up some stands like this in summer. These are like bus shelves, but see each one of these? These are vendors. They bring those in every day. And they have vendors out there. And then they bring in music. You know, they have in Asheville, where I took that, they don't even have to pay the musicians. They're just coming there. They're coming from colleges and universities. And they're making their money on tips. Wouldn't that be cool? And by the way, having those street trees ring there, wouldn't that be the coolest thing? You need more trees. Even having places for vendor booths coming from all over. I mean, you know, you name it. And you know what? It wouldn't take long before you are the central gathering place. That's in Flagstaff. I have no idea what's going on back there. But creating these, see the little stage right here? This is all you need. You just need to program it. It doesn't need to be fancy. It doesn't need to be expensive. You just need Albertsons to give it to you. I don't know what else they're going to do with it. By the way, Disney, see the raised planters? Those raised planters look at that for a reason. Seating. Bring it to life. 3rd Street Promenade, Santa Monica. I mean, can you imagine yoga out there on the plaza in the mornings this time of year? I mean, think about the healthy living, the atmosphere that you already have in Mountain Home. Think about doing the taste of southern Idaho or whatever you want to call it. You know, and then maybe you do even synthetic rink in the winter. But you know what? And you need public restrooms. Relieved visitors spend more. So I have a great idea. This is in Sulphur Springs, Texas. That is a restroom. And what's really cool about it, that's it from the outside. They have 2 of them. They're about $30,000 each. Notice they even have chess set there. There it is from a distance. What's really cool about it is when you go inside, it's one-way glass. There you go. That's looking through the walls. How many of you would have courage using that restroom? But you know what? In Sulphur Springs, people drive 40 miles just to see those. $60,000 for 2 of them. By the way, they have lights on the outside so that at night they don't see in and you can't see out. And it's really cool. I mean, it's just doing fun stuff. And you know, you want to put Mountain Home on the map, the first thing you got to do is get your locals to want to hang out here. And that's how you can do it. So here's some ideas to make things better. I'm going to give you 3 statistics that are really important for your downtown. Call it the 7-8-7 rule. Curb appeal accounts for 70% of first-time sales. And it is lacking downtown. And that is not a city job, it's merchants' jobs. Cities take care of the curbs, merchants need to take care of the facades. And they don't do a good job. A few do, but very few. Here's the second one. Women account for 80% of all consumer spending. I'm waiting for the guys. Usually there's somebody in the audience that pipes up and says, "That's all?" It's true. But look at this picture. What do you see? That was not staged. I have 2 words for you. Think benches. And by the way, you should have 30 or 40 of them in your downtown. You've got like 10, and they're concrete ones that I wouldn't even want to sit on. Always at the facade facing out, by the way. So there you go. 70% first-time sales from curb appeal, 80% by women. Here's the third one. 70% of all retail spending takes place after 6 p.m. So do not complain about Walmart because they're open and you're not. 70%. Think about this. As a visitor, during the day, we're down at Bruneau. We're up at Anderson Ranch. We're out there hunting, fishing, doing all the things you sent us out to. We come back at the end of the day and you're closed. 70%. That is the National Retail Federation. We did not make it up. That is why Walmart's open 24 hours. That's why Barnes & Noble, the few that are left, are open until 11. This is why banks are open later. This is why CVS pharmacies, they're all open until 9 o'clock, 7 days a week. And I'll bet you every single person in a lease agreement in the village is open until 9 o'clock, 7 days a week because of that. So, the average visitor is active 14 hours a day, where we spend 4 to 6 at Bruneau or up north. And then, you know, we come back and we spend 8 to 10 hours doing that. And that is where 80% of our spending. So think about not only your Air Force officers and what do you call them? What's that? Personnel. Airmen. Well, there's even, but remember all the visitors that are visiting them. I mean, they're filling up the Hampton Inn. There's no place for them to hang out. They go to AJ's. You know, no offense to AJ's or Wingers or whatever. But you know what? Another thing for businesses. Always promote what it is you're selling before the name of the store. I have no idea what Coyote Creek is. There is some writing down there, but I cannot make it out because it's really blocking, it's really condensed. The only way I can read what they're about is if I stand right in front of the store. So they're probably losing a lot of business because you don't know what they're selling. It should say wrought iron, home decor, and more, and then in small letters put Coyote Creek. So there's something for your businesses. The stockyard, I have no idea what the stockyard is. Well, and then I go around the end and I can you read that? It's red on black. I had to get out, it says bar and brew house. But I have to stop there, get out and read the sign. By the way, is it still open? Okay. Not real obvious, no beautification. You know what? Blade signs. I know this place must have tattoos, and I can see a bakery. Do you know what's in any of these shops? Other shops. These are blade signs. Most of your businesses are not using them. By the way, Leavenworth, Washington. Chocolate, collectibles, train, restaurant. I know instantly what they're about, and they're perpendicular. When we walk down the sidewalk, driving down the street, we see blade signs that are perpendicular to us. That's what you need to do. And by the way, the best towns have blade signs. That's Nantucket. You know, there it is from a different angle. This is Carmel, California. Here's Canmore, Alberta, town of 10,000. Look at that. That's what you need to do. Kitchen Boutique, obvious what they're about. By the way, this is Lethbridge, Alberta. These are built to 100-mile-an-hour wind loads. And they were just putting them in when I was there. And so they were just putting these in here. They just set them up, and they were just going to fill these in. So if a merchant changes, all they have to replace is that. So there's some general rules. No lower than 7, no higher than 9, no wider than 42 inches. Be perfect. Because right now you have big, huge fluorescent signs. And by the way, I'm not saying take out your retro signs because I think they're cool. And then, can you tell me what's in any of those stops? No idea. How about here? Can you tell me what's in any of those? There's no blade signs. I have no idea what's in any of those. Can you tell me what's in any of those? Okay, nothing is. That one's empty. But even here, give me a reason to walk down that sidewalk. I have no idea what's in any of the shops. Blade signs. You know, I could just keep going on. I know Elmo's Books there. You know, it's kind of a little bit oversized. But, you know, I have no idea. And by the way, there's no beautification. You know, here, the only way I can read the signs is if I go out and walk in traffic. And then look up there and go, oh, there's title and loans and something else, you know. Places like this. Is this a jewelry store or is it a law office, a jewelry store, and an Asian restaurant? I don't know. If it's all three, the only way I knew there was an Asian restaurant was because of the hand-painted window when I was walking by. There's no blade signs. The other thing merchants should do, merchants should always have 24 inches outside their window to extend window displays to exterior spaces like that. That merchant does that every 10 minutes, every morning. This lady does this every morning. She pulls this out and puts her plants on it for this little nursery. Look at this store versus this one. Huge difference. I don't see your restaurants doing that. I think your merchants should do things like that. Or like that. Yeah, this takes a little bit of time every day. But in a town where you have a lot of vacancies, this is the only way you're going to know that you're in business. I mean, and so look at that. That's awesome. Because, and by the way, this makes you look like a second-class garage sale town. If you don't put it in your display window, you would never put that in display window, so you don't put it outside. By the way, that's one of the very best shops in town because it sells a lot of local art. I wouldn't know. It looks like a second-class used bookstore, which part of it is. So Jane went in, and I said, no thanks. I went out and took this picture instead. And she came and said, it's really awesome. Here's another deal. You need, you know what I hear all the time? City, what are you doing for me lately? You know what my response is? Merchant, what are you doing for yourself? You go to France or anywhere else in Europe, you will see the merchant out there every single day, hosing down the gutters, hosing down, sweeping their sidewalks, even though the city owns them. Because why? Because it's good business practice. We want the city to create a plaza. We want the city to do wayfinding. You take care of your storefronts, and you'll win. Because I saw too much of this all over downtown. It sends the impression that we as merchants and we as a city do not care. We're dying, and we know it, and we're resigned to the fact. That's the downtown message you send people. Even they did a great job with the patio. Take down this stuff before it falls down and hits somebody. I mean, it doesn't do you any good. And then I call this the ugliest store in Idaho. And it might be a fantastic, there's no windows. None. And by the way, it's the same color as the concrete. And so, I thought, and there's the other side of it. So, there's two French words called trompe-l'oeil. It's French for fool the eye. That's a concrete wall. It's fool the eye. These are architectural. That there is a concrete wall. They painted this on. It looks like it's really deep. It's all flat. It's all shadows there. He's in the process of painting. There's Eric Groh. He's the painter that does this stuff. You can see the shadows there. There it is, during, after. Okay? Before, during, after. That's a flat surface. Before, after. Look at this guy right here. He's painted on. The car is actually real. But look at this. These guys, they're painted. They're part of the mural. The curb is part of the mural. This is in a microbrew. See that wall? Notice the hoses here. Here it is. Before, after. I asked her, how many times do people walk up into the wall? She goes, they walk down the wall like this, because you can get really close and not know it's there. But you know what? 1.5 million people a year drive way out of their way to go to Winslow, Arizona. Sitting on a corner in Winslow, Arizona, such a fine sight to see. There's a girl, my lord, in a flatbed Ford slowing down to take a look at me. Notice, homage to the Eagles. Couple making out in the window. There's the flatbed Ford. You can see a reflection of kind of a furniture store. Guess what? It's all painted on. There it is. There it is. There's the flatbed Ford. You can see it right there. But let me keep going. Let's walk around the corner there. There you can see it right there. And by the way, there's nothing behind it. It's just a wall. There's the back. 1.5 million people a year go out of their way to get their picture taken in front of that. Trompe-l'oeil. Fool the eye. Even all this stuff is painted on. All of it. All those windows are painted on. Nevada City it's Virginia City in Nevada. They had to rebuild all this concrete wall, but look at it. They decorated just to look like 1830s or 1840s, gold rush, even the girl down there. Cool thing to do with buildings. You know, and by the way, people will come a long ways for that. You know, the plastic banners, we think plastic banners in a great downtown should only be allowed 4 times a year, 2 weeks at a time for special sales and promotions, and not just plastered on a building. And the other, okay, here you go, I'm giving you a bad time. I already warned her yesterday. I said, the other thing I want to make sure you do is not this. And she explained why she did. Did you already take it down? Not yet? She hasn't yet. You know what I always tell people? Never say no. Instead, tell me where I can go. Now, here's a problem she may have. Where do I tell them to go? City Hall closes at 5. I don't know when the museum, right? That's the other problem. That's why you need those glass bathrooms. Okay? You know, my guess is that this bakery is long gone out of business. It's open? How would I know it? There is a little sign that says open right there, but I saw open signs in 4 other stores that obviously were empty. Curb appeal is how we know. Even Jenny's there. She did this job. There's no blade signs and no curb appeal. You know, I mean, look at all these shops. There's just no curb appeal. You don't know whether they're open or closed. I'd like to see merchants do things like that. Isn't that a cool little sidewalk sign? This is Sisters, Oregon. Population 1,100. Fantastic. You know what you could do? Here's my idea for you. This is Fredericksburg, Texas. Here's what they did. A guy got together, he went downtown, and he asked all the merchants, we're going to go to a nursery wholesaler at the end of the season. We're going to get all their leftover pots. The only rule is 21 inches and bigger. You know, we don't want little pots. We want big pots. And so, would you donate some money? One merchant gave him $5. Another one gave him $200. Another one gave him $50. I think the average was like $40 or $50. So they went down, got all the pots, brought them back, put them on a side street, told all the merchants. And by the way, I concentrated in those blocks I showed you around the plaza, around the market. And they said, go grab the pots. They didn't say you only paid $5, you only get one. They said, just go grab them. So this merchant grabbed these, this merchant grabbed these, another merchant grabbed these like down there. And then this merchant grabbed these 2. And they just put them out and they set them up. And because it was October at the end of the season, then what they did is they put gravel, landscape fabric, and topsoil in a side street. They went to high school, band, sports, Boy Scouts, Girl Scouts, any youth organization, and said, we'll pay you a little bit of money to put rock in there, landscape fabric, fill them full of soil. So they did it. The kids did it. They made a few $100, you know, and it was all part of that donation. And then they stuck pinwheels in them to tide them through the winter. They were in the news and everything because all the pinwheels. And then in the spring, they planted them mainly with evergreens. But here's the deal. Not one case of vandalism because kids protect things they take ownership of. I mean, does that make you want to go in? Blade sign, beautification, there's pots left over. So there you go. There's that same statistic. There are many places we ate that we would have never eaten had it not been for somebody locally telling us, go inside, it doesn't look like much, and it'll be worth it, like Manhattan's and many other ones. Neenah, Wisconsin. Before, after. Retail sales went up 35%. Once again, before, after. And it can work in the winter. And it's easy to screen utility boxes and stuff. Because this merchant did a good job with these, but it is not enough. There should be a pot, a bench, a pot, a pot, a bench, a pot, and then these, maybe some exterior retail. I would paint these different colors. Do something, because you need your pots, by the way, every 3 feet, not one on every corner. It's not cutting it for you. You know, same here. I mean, great store, sign's not that great. It's got way too much text on it, and it looks very blocky. It doesn't look artistic, but it's a great store, but just really one little thing out there just doesn't get our attention. You know, great store, but Zero curb appeal. And by the way, all these benches should be back here. You should have this pot should be up there and the bench right next to it. And by the way, we believe in benches that you would actually want to sit on, not ones that are vandal-proof. And you've got these around. They're great, but they should be back here. So, the other thing you need to do in this town that I just realized is you need to get some retail here. And, I mean, you should have a Home Depot or a Lowe's. We saw all these new houses being built. And, I mean, I'm going, man, you have a big enough population to have a little more retail here. As a matter of fact, we went and pulled some demographics. Within a 5-mile radius of City Hall, you have 20,000 people. So quit thinking about city limits. 20,000 within 5 miles. And then 10 miles, 23,000. You go out 15 miles, you have 23,500 people. And you know what? I've run into cities where they say, we don't want any of them in because it's going to be like Walmart. They're going to kill all our retailers. That is absolutely false. If you didn't have the Walmart, all those hundreds of employees and all that money would be being spent in Boise or Twin Falls. So I want to show you how to get around that. All you do is have to differentiate yourself. This is Stu Leonard's, a grocery store in Connecticut. A mom and pop grocery store. Founded in 1969. 1989, the parents handed over the kids. You know what happened the next year? Walmart came to town. You know what happened the very next year? Costco came to town. And they panicked. Oh my God, what are we going to do? We cannot compete with Walmart, right? You probably heard that here. We cannot compete with Walmart. So they said, we have to narrow focus. We have to do something different. Because you know what happened 2 years later? Safeway came to town. Everybody was gunning for the mom and pop store. So you know what they did? They said, okay, we're going to narrow our focus onto farm fresh produce and dairy. You know what? They even gutted their stores to look like a farmer's market. And they really worked hard on that. They really talked about how they went and worked with the Amish. And they promoted the heck out of it, that they're about farm fresh, because Walmart, Costco, they can't compete with farm fresh like this store can. Matter of fact, to illustrate that they're about farm fresh, they have staff dressed as cows and chickens. How it's like a job there. Then they put a world-class bakery inside. There it is. They put a farmyard zoo out in front. They have displays that go moo and cluck. See what I mean? They made it experiential. And free ice cream if you spend $100 or more. And look at their little slogan, profit is the applause of happy customers. Well, guess what? They're known for farm fresh produce and dairy, fresh baked goods. Okay? Now, is that all they have to sell? No. They sell laundry detergent. They sell all the same stuff. But that's what they're known for. And guess what? Highest per square foot retail sales of any grocery store on planet Earth. So bring it on, Costco, Walmart, Safeway, Albertsons, you name it, because they just opened their 5th store. All you have to do is differentiate yourself. They're in the Guinness Book of World Records. I mean, they're winning every kind of an award. So, I think you need to keep some more of that retail spending here instead of sending people away. Okay? And by the way, I shop at Lowe's and Home Depot, but I also love my hometown hardware store. I go to Lowe's for certain things, but I always go to my hometown hardware. So sometimes we get in the communist mode that competition is a bad thing, when it's actually a really good thing. Okay? We'd love to see you. Here's your other brochure. The very best of Mountain Home. Number 2, Mountain Home's Hidden Gems. We'd love you to do a little book. And in that book, you have these cool little things that are out here in the country, around town. This is where you put other parks, other neat little things that you could do. And I don't have time to get into it, but you have lots of these that we didn't even find in our 4 days. And finally, to wrap things up, what should be your brand? When we sat there, we said, could you do air sports? I still think it's worth exploring. And by the way, we can't come with, by the way, a brand is something you live with. Branding is how you set yourself apart from everybody else. That's what it is. It's not about logos and slogans at all. And by the way, I said you should change your logo. If you didn't, nobody's going to say, oh, I'm not going there because of the logo. I mean, have you ever said, you know what? I really don't want to go to Nampa because I think their logo sucks. By the way, I have no idea what their logo looks like. You know, or say, ooh, let's go to Twin Falls. They have a really cool logo. So at the end of the day, it doesn't mean a whole lot. But I think that's worth exploring. Number 2, equestrian. I just don't know. I just don't see that because I think I don't think you have the horsepower to, no pun intended, to do that financially. I think doing mid-century cool, you could be Idaho's festival city. And every weekend there's something going on. If you had 40 days, if you had 40 weekends full of stuff going on in that plaza, in that market, you'd have people coming from everywhere. You'd be a multi-state destination. I really thought about hunting and fishing, but are you really better than everywhere else? And does it get you 12 months of the year? Not too sure. And so, here's your deal. You want to make Mountain Home the destination. Not everywhere else. Mountain Home. And when you come here, you send them down to Bruneau. You send them out to Anderson Ranch. And then all the ingredients are here. There's only 3 killers of you narrowing your focus. Number 1 is local politics, and it's worse with local organizations than it is with elected officials. Lack of champions willing to push it forward. And then lack of money. But you know what? Lack of champions is gold there for one reason. If you get the right champions to push it forward, they'll get through the politics and they'll find a way to make it happen. Every time. So one of the things you need to do is a plan. What is it we want to be known for as a city? And how do we, and all successful brands are built on product, not marketing. And how do we tell the world, and where's the to-do list? And then finally, make a list of these. These are just suggestions. Start knocking them off. Other than doing that store in the plaza and wayfinding, every single one of the other 65 of these is low-hanging fruit. So, what you have here is amazing. I mean, there is just no reason that you couldn't do this. By taking an old grocery store, even if you just lease it to them for $1 a year for 3 years or something, just to get something started. And you could do this. You need to get your people downtown, and it'll take root. Because right now, visitors coming through downtown, and they're not seeing the rest of Mountain Home. So the best time to plant trees 20 years ago, second best time is today. And you know, we need these signs to say downtown. We need those signs to say Legacy Park. We need those signs to say the Basque Park. I mean, it's time you started selling Mountain Home instead of selling everybody else. I mean, you have cool stuff everywhere. By the way, did a business used to be in there? It says it's closed. And you could walk up the stairs, but I didn't know. I thought that'd be a cool little ice cream shop or a coffee shop or something. That's right on Main Street. And there's just a sign that just says closed in one of the windows. And then, by the way, I hope that these last 2.5 hours or more that you spent with me helped you inspire some change, because what you have here is worth saving, and you're not that far. You've got the infrastructure, you've got the pieces in place. You just need to come together, get your business community on board, and you will win. And so, thank you so much for coming out tonight. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. You're free to go. Thank you very much.